Hello and welcome to the Deadman 2020 final. In just a few minutes we will see the top 2,000 players who have been playing for the last month, competing through the Permadeath stage and onto the 1v1s to try and get those all-important prizes, some of which have been given to us by our sponsors Intel and Razer. Big thank you to both of them for being involved in today's event. And if you guys would also like to get your hands on a Razer Kraken Ultimate headset, then keep watching because later today we will be giving one of those away. Alongside that, you can also get 10% off the entire Razer store for the next 48 hours with the code JAGX10. And as well as prizes for the players, JAGX will also be giving £25,000 away to 3 mental health charity partners: CPSL Mind, Prince's Trust and You Are Rad. It's going to be a fantastic event filled with non-stop PvP action from the best of the best in clans and solo players alike, alongside giving money to a fantastic cause. So get ready because it's going to be a good one. I'm Nightinator and I'll be your host for this evening, and alongside me I have 2 fantastic casters with a whole lot of PvP knowledge. The first one has been casting since the dawn of Deadman mode time, and he's been making his mark in this tournament as well. It is Pure Spam, aka Ian.
Hello everyone, lovely to be here. I'm excited to see the carnage ensue that is Deadman mode and watch all our favourite pixelated game, everyone running around, throwing all these animated chompers around in a bit of a cluster. But yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I can't wait to see how it all comes together, to be honest. So yeah, thank you for having me back again, and I look forward to watching this journey with you all.
And alongside Ian, we have someone who definitely has a lot of RuneScape knowledge, the ins and the outs. You may know him as the ultimate geezer. It's Aiza, aka Ben.
God, thank you so much for that interesting introduction. Not words that I would have chosen, but nonetheless, it's always a pleasure to be able to be part of Deadman. I'm really looking forward to it. One of my favourite events that the old school team put on, and a great opportunity, and also just very fun to be alongside one of my best friends, Ian, not only for moral support this time, but also physical support in the sense of, the same hairstyle. So, just
don't
getting closer as each day goes by.
It's a lockdown now. We've not been able to get haircuts. Don't draw attention.
Starting up a little
I don't
boy
think
band.
we need to worry about that. It's drawing it to itself. Pure spam.
Well, it's been a long time since we've delved into the depths of Deadman mode, and this tournament has been a little bit experimental. We've taken the best bits from the seasonals and the tournaments previously, while sprinkling in a few wildcards. Guys, what have been your favourite changes for this time?
I think for me. Ian. We've got to set a hierarchy here, okay? No, so I think for me, honestly, the best thing has been the opening up of raids, having both Chambers of Xeric and the Theatre of Blood involved. Granted, they've been, they are pretty safe areas, so going there doesn't involve a huge amount of risk, apart from the few moments that you end up leaving them. But just to be able to see what kind of changes that brings into the final 1v1 stage and what gear people are going to be bringing into that, and how much it changes the meta, I really can't wait to see that. So that by far has been the most exciting thing for me.
Yeah, along the same kind of lines, to be honest. Having a month-long tournament as well obviously means that everyone's had plenty of time to be able to max out their accounts, especially like we said before, being in this lockdown at the moment. So everyone's going to be in absolute maximum gear with Ancestral, with all the new prayers. And it's just going to be insane because it's going to come down to literally who is the best player, just like we saw in the 1v1 tournament a few weeks ago. And everyone's really got a chance to win. There'll be a few big ticket items, such as the Spirit Shields, potentially, that clans have been locking down throughout the month. But everyone's had enough time to really kit out their best PKers. And I think a lot of clans are taking it really seriously, which we'll talk about a little bit later. I've got a lot of information. I want to say a massive thank you to all the clans, actually, that have reached out and spoken to me about all of that stuff, because I think it's really important to give them some exposure. And they're the people that really make demo mode what it is. But it's one of the most competitive tournaments so far. And we're in for a lot of action, I think, tonight.
Absolutely. I'm imagining, I've seen personally some incredibly beefy setups, and with people spending extra time, it has been, the standards are going to be so high for this tournament, and I'm so excited. So let's talk predictions and metaphorically play some bets. Ian, who have you got your eyes set on? Who do you reckon can make it through?
Oh gosh. Well, the thing is, so the multi-phase, of course, we know before, top 2,000 players are going into this, and the fog will be released, and everyone has to be pushed into 2 separate areas until there are 128 people in each area, so 256 that go through to the final 1v1s. And I've been speaking to all the clans. There are 4 main alliances that we'll talk about later, and realistically, I know everyone always says this, and we always say it, that everyone's got a chance of winning, but every team has these signature players that have gone through to the finals and that have gone all the way. I think ones to look out for this time round, big names. We've got Blazers playing again, Lethal Intention. We've got Frontline as well with a lot of players. We have Tartar, huge team. Execution. There are so many guys that we need to talk about. Rot, of course, as well. Maybe playing in Secret. Fools has come back as well, even though they disbanded. We'll talk about this later, but I can't put a single name on it.
So much good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, literally so many guys that have been really well, and yeah, I have to wait and see.
Well, it looks like it's the moment we've all been waiting for. The safe zone's vanishing, and it's time to go into the permadeath stage. So, some of you guys, go for it.
Perfect. And you can already see, as we were talking about beefy setups, this is not a familiar sight in terms of previous Deadman tournaments. Not only are you seeing pets there, I think someone is rocking around the absolute unit that is the omelet pet, but the gear that these guys are rocking, everyone is in basically full Barrows gear. You've got the Zuriel staffs out. There's only a few people in there that are just wearing the Dragonhide armor. So in terms of defense and offense, it's going to be huge this time around. The amount of max mage capes that are just rolling through in this train. Normally in previous tournaments, this scene right now, you'd be looking at probably maybe 10 or 15 or so people with like high-end gear. The rest would just be basically max budget, wearing their Runite equipment, Dragonhide, anything they could get their hands on, and those would be the people that have been feeding the other members within their team. However, this time round, everyone has been able to play for the entire month, and it's just, as Purespam mentioned, everyone has had that chance to just kind of like build up their supplies. We've got an unfortunate warrior here in the woods who's about to get knocked out by a hammer, someone claiming the first kill in this moment. Pretty interesting in a single area. He's trying to get inside.
We were talking earlier about how many Chinchompas actually been caught, and that one Chinchompa is one of many. I believe they're in the top 2,000 right now. We have around 150,000 almost Chinchompas that players are going to be using during that multi-phase, and that guy, unfortunately, has dropped dead. Can't stand a chance really in the cabbage fields of
the end of the road for him. Nuns Up takes the first kill that we've been able to witness live on Twitch.television. So how many of those Chinchompas do you think are going to be used up in this first kind of like altercation?
Thousands. They'll be flown in every direction, exploding barbarically. But you talked about a minute ago about lots of people being in maxed gear and stuff. This is going to be nothing compared to the 1v1s. When we get through to that final stage, a lot of these guys have all of their best items that are in their banks right now, and they're waiting to use until they get to that stage. And I'm talking about, the Ancestral, the Armadillo, the Spirit Shields as well. We might see a few Elijans or Arcanes going around. I've had a few words from different clans that have been locking down the Corporeal Beast area, and it's been extremely beneficial for them to always to get one of those shields. But I think by now most people are going to have this Barrows setups, and looking at the statistics we've been given, at least we have anywhere from 100 of one Barrows item to up to 1,000 of a Barrows item. And
yeah, there's been 100. Over 102,000 completions of Barrows this tournament.
102,000, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. That's like the top kill count boss out of the entire list of NPCs. So one thing I just wanted to touch on whilst we've got this moment, for anyone that is new to Deadman, basically what we're watching at the moment, this is now known as the Permadeath stage. So anyone that does fall is out of the tournament. But essentially what's happening is very slowly, and it will ramp up very soon. Over the longer that this carries on, the faster that the fog will pull in. But there is fog that is eventually pulling everyone into two separate locations. The location that you get assigned is completely random. So you might be with a team of, say, 100 people, and 50 of them will be in a completely different area. It's going to bring in a lot of strategy and a lot of kind of like requirements for very good and clear communications to be able to take down the opponents and, increase their chance of moving through into the 1v1 stage, which we'll get onto later on this evening. But these first few moments, it's a pretty slow build-up. It gives us a chance to just talk about things and just bring everyone up to speed with what's going on. Now, yourself, Purespam, you have been participating in every single Deadman so far, and I know that this one you participated in as well, and completely no-lifed it at the start. I think you were running, was it 3 accounts to begin with, feeding into one, getting it absolutely maxed. I mean, you kind of had to when you ended up running into the safe zone and getting yourself killed. But let's just forget about that, and let's touch on what is it like in those first few hours of Deadman if you've never played before.
So first of all, did I run into a safe zone, Skull?
You got killed. You got killed by someone in the safe zone. Yeah,
I've blacked out that memory. It was my alternate account.
Oh, you didn't lose like over 1,000 chins, no?
I lost about 2,000. Anyway, let's move on swiftly. Yeah, so I am a massive PvP nerd, as you quite rightly pointed out, and Deadman mode is my bread and butter. I've been playing since the very first iteration of it, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to cast these magnificent tournaments and get to see the spectacle that is Deadman mode itself. But yeah, the first few days are just super competitive. Now, of course, oh my gosh, here's one of the big alliances we were talking about, running into Falador, one of the final areas. We might actually see some carnage and some battles happening a bit early on. Obviously, being in that final area first and foremost means that you've got that defending position. You can actually see your opponents coming first and be able to wrap around and attack them back. Now, the main clans that are going to be here, it's going to be pretty difficult to actually call them out because names are going to vary, and just in general, it's going to be difficult to realize who's who and everyone's in maximum gear. I'll talk about the clan alliances very shortly. Now, of course, to get through to that final phase that we talked about before, it's the top 128 players from each of the final areas, one being Falador, one being Anakal. And the reason these places have been chosen is because they seem quite fair in terms of a defending and an attacking position. So the main clans alliances, to give yourself the best chance of getting to that final area, a lot of the bigger clans have joined together. Let's touch a little bit about those clans. So
sure.
Lit and Frontline. This is one of the biggest clan mergers that we've seen. So Frontline standing for Frontline FL, and Lit standing for Lethal Intentions. Or we'll call them Frontal Intentions. Anyway, so Lit is a very large clan from DMM. They've been around for a very long time. Potentially one of the largest solo clans, actually, with Deadbotting being the leader and having taken a lot of money in the past. Now, Voss is a content creator. He's a co-leader. He's got quite possibly the most max kills that I've ever seen from a single person. His Twitter feed has been non-stop risk fight abilities of him taking people out in the banks and such. Over 700 kills this tournament and such. So yeah, due to Corona, of course, like we said before, in this lockdown, a lot of these clans have come back really strong, and they have really huge mandatory pools. Do you want to touch on the numbers of those pools, actually? I believe you've got a few statistics there regarding how big some of these teams are.
So in terms of teams, looking at the largest clan, like in terms of just the general clan themselves, it seems that Hey Boys have probably the biggest amount of
Hey Boys. Shall we touch on Hey Boys as well?
Sure thing. With their 246 members, they are essentially one of the for fun kind of fun clans here. I believe that their ethos is no toxicity, no drama, just having fun. Their main purpose originally was to be a clan for those who had never experienced Deadman mode before, and they've just slowly built up over these Deadmans have carried on, and they've just built up a really good reputation of actually doing really well, considering that there was never really any thought behind it, as I said, other than just being a place for everyone that didn't have a place.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they've got some secret deals with every single clan in the game, I believe, but it does look like that. It does look like that some of these may backfire as things progress through in these next few moments.
I asked Super about Hey Boys, and he said, alliance-wise, I have made secret deals with every single clan in the game. I've managed to weasel my way into a deal that involves every clan agreeing a truce and a ceasefire, except for Frontline, because they attacked me at raids. It may backfire, but it needed to be done. So let's see how that one plays out for Soup and the Hey Boys. But that's the spirit of Deadman mode, isn't it? Of course, we have a massive clan called GG, Gimme Gimme, and these guys have been around for a long time. They were known as the original solo alliance, and that's really how clans are formed. You know, a group of friends or a group of players that have played the tournament, love the game mode, and want the best chance to get into that final 1v1 and show off what they're really made of, and have a chance at the prize money, of course, as well as, more importantly, the glory of saying that your clan's got all the way to the finals and has beaten every other player in the game. Now, here's Anakal as well, of course, both areas being multi-phases. We're going to touch a little bit on what kind of gear and strategies they're going to use as the fights start to begin, but the Yellow Capers, not too sure which clan this is going to be. Haven't had any replies about that one yet. But yeah, we talked about one of the alliances being Lit, Frontline as well, of course. Frontline, everyone knows as being one of the strongest single clans in the game. They have magnificent Odor Block being there, representing them as a streamer. Any winkers in the chat, I'm sure. We have 1013 as well, prolific name, who actually ended up winning the 1v1 tournament that happened a few weeks ago. And that man is, yeah, he's absolutely demolishes people in 1v1. He's super good at that. Then Inya as well is another more noticeable and prolific member of their team. One of the most competent single-player clans in the game, really, Frontline are. And in recent tournaments, they actually sent in that one assassin, Inya, twice, and he won both times, taking $20,000 home and $10,000 home. When I asked for a statement from Frontline, they said, "We love winning, making money, and making statements." Bank statements.
So they feel there you go then.
They're unmatched and playing seriously for this DMT apparently, and they feel like if they make it through to 1v1s, they're very confident they'll be able to win again. But every single clan that I've talked to are taking it super seriously, and they've all managed to get, of course, in the 1 month long build up to this final, they've all managed to get themselves max stats, max gear. They've been grinding out the double loot weekends as well throughout the entire month to make it a little bit more competitive and to keep clans playing and to enjoy their entire month-long tournament. During these weekends, there's been, for example, double drops in the wilderness when they want to get the Malediction wards and the Odium wards, for example, as well as the Gobbler's Dungeon double drops as well. So all the clans fight out there and have huge battles. As you can see there, there's a chest has been looted for some items. Do you want to touch on that mechanic right there, Ben?
Absolutely. So what's going to happen is that through certain moments during this build-up to the actual final stage where everyone is covered with fog, or hopefully not, because you should be in the safe area, there are going to be supply drops that will come down, and in those supply drops are going to be some of the strongest items that are available in the game. It's the first person to click on them that will obtain them. From there you saw that there was a Seer's ring, and I think it was also the Berserker ring, and both imbued, and it was Run West now that managed to grab that. Clans typically will look to have 1 or 2 members that will run in and try and grab them because they are pretty contested, normally by randoms, people that aren't typically in a clan, but still very dangerous because if you run in there to go and grab some loot, cool, you might get a really strong item, but if you die, you're out, and then, well, you're not going to end up going to the final and winning. So we do see convergence around them, but there's been some really interesting moments in the past of seeing a solo player run in, grab it, and just make the escape. I think last tournament we had the joy of being able to watch a level 50 or something run away with a DFS and then kill someone in the fog and run straight back in and trade it over. So very fun moment. So hopefully we can catch the next chest drop when that does happen. I just want to quickly touch on this. We can see, obviously, we have this huge formation of players that are moving across from Barbarian Village. They look to be going down towards Falador, which I'm assuming is where their safe spot is. The cape seems to be the same as those capes that are up at the up ahead, but they're probably unaware of the fact that they're about to run straight into another set of clans. However, they are on the same cape, so maybe these guys are merging.
Oh,
we have seen, however,
for the alliance. For the cape,
here we go. We can see a few people getting hit here. Maybe there's some calls out saying, no, we're friends, off us. They will eventually have to kill each other because there are only 128 people that can get through. We did have a little sneak preview earlier of how many people are here. We now got this huge alliance on the left-hand side, and I think there are a few people being very sneaky, hiding behind the trees over by the water here. Yep, yeah, you can see it right there. So they are wearing different capes. In fact, it doesn't look like they're wearing any wilderness capes here. The wilderness cape's pretty good when it comes to a PvP situation because it changes the minimap color of that player, and I think it also disables you from being able to left click on them so you can't misclick your players.
Yes, the reasoning for
however,
this
they can backfire though, can't they, Ian?
I mean, yeah. I mean, sometimes other clans will actually loot those capes and wear them to try and, merge themselves into the team and won't be called out as easily, won't be left-clicked as easily. Now, very interestingly, this other clan that has been defending for longer are sitting in single strip right now, so they can't be barraged as easily. And surprisingly, the yellow capes have actually moved in and are taunting them. I think they've actually outmatched them in numbers as well as gear. We see so many guys in full barrows, and this strategy now to wedge them into this formation to the corner, so they're able to spread their players out more evenly. And there's 2 main attack styles we're going to see here, Range and Mage. So Chinchompers are caught by Hunter, and as we said before, there's 150,000 almost that are in this final. They have a 3x3 radius of damage splat.
They're cute little animals that fly and then explode.
And if you're close by one of them, you'll see lots of players dropping in a matter of seconds if there's enough Chinchompers being thrown at the same time. Of course, we also have Ancient Magics and Barrage being used, which as well has a 3x3 radius. So over the people's heads, you've got the Protect from Missiles or the Protect from Magic, which decreases your damage taken by 40%. So getting those prayers right really does help. But at the same time, if you've got 50 people launching Chinchompers at your face, you're not going to survive that, regardless of what gear you're in,
doesn't
and
matter.
regardless of what you're protecting.
One thing to note as well, for those that aren't too familiar with these kind of spells, the Ice Barrage spell does also freeze your opponent in place for 20 seconds if it casts on them. So if you can manage to, for example, on the right-hand side of the screen now, where it is a multi-combat area, if you were able to get a group of people hit by Ice Barrage, it would freeze them all for 20 seconds. And that's going to allow you to just really concentrate your damage onto them. So you're going to see a lot of that happening. You'll have people that will be dedicated to just using that magic spell, whilst others are using the Chinchomper. And it just gives 2 different damage types. You can't protect against 2 pieces of damage. You can only have 1 protection prayer up at the one time. Yeah. So a lot of strategy is going to come into that.
Have I just seen an Omelette pet and a Saradomin pet?
Oh yeah, they've been running around. They are. I mean, there's a Corp pet in there.
They've been
hidden behind the fence. Who managed to get Corporal Beast Pet?
Wait, someone's actually got a Corp Beast Pet? You're kidding me?
I'm not mistaken. Is that what's just chilling by the fence?
By the fence, I'm looking around for it. I mean, I'll take
to
your
the left
word
of the
for it.
statue.
I mean, we have been told that there might be a few spirit shields, of course.
I haven't been outside in over 2 months, so I've been looking at the screen. My eyes might not be as good as they have been in the past, but I'm pretty sure. Look, there it is. That's a caught beast, is it not?
Oh my god, no way. Okay, these guys have been grinding really hard. Whichever team this is, then I'm going to guess it's potentially Tartar. We'll talk about that team very briefly here. There's a second alliance, which involves Tartar, DL, X, Rot, potentially, TS, Antiques, CL, and my favourite name, Nans. So Tartar is one of the biggest DMO teams out there. They play 45, and there's a lot of World 45 clans that have been playing this, and I basically squashed their beef to create this massive alliance, give themselves the best chance of getting to the 1v1s. As one of the oldest DMO clans in the game, Tartar's played almost every single demo tournament. Yeah, I know, right?
They're like
only his friends until 4 tournaments ago when they started playing officially and competitively. So they've been really efficient because they played so many demos. They know exactly what they're doing. And they told me before that they have been actually hitting up the corporeal beast throughout the entire month long, and we may see a few Elijahs or Arcanes in the final, which is crazy due to the rare drop rates they have. And just in general, the amount of benefit that gives you in those final hours, if you're having a straight damage reduction from the Elijah or the plus 25, I think it is, magic bonus from the Arcane, is just huge for catching those imperative freezes that we're going to talk about in the 1v1 stage. There's a few content creators as well that are going alongside this Tartar alliance. For example, Zulu, who's part of the team that got the first Twisted Bow in the game on like day one. You've got Kemp Q, another content creator. You've got Ditter Bitter as well, who's been absolutely smashing the YouTube videos. Loved his content. 61M as well, another content creator that streams. Cloud Badass, apparently, and also Grey Grey. And I actually heard earlier as well, apparently this team has a 7-man VLS team, which is infiltrating rival clans, right? And with claws and VLSs and AGSs, and just in a matter of seconds, because everyone's protecting mage and range, right? They've masked themselves with the capes potentially, and they'll all just pounce on someone. For example, you know,
a little bit of espionage. Here we go. This is gonna be interesting to see.
Like Torvesta or Solar Mission or Skill Specs or Robert, you know, all these guys, big names that they want to take out and give less of a chance, and give themselves a better chance.
The unlucky chosen one. I mean, that's almost as bad as running into a cave that's embraced by fog.
Oh no, don't remind Torvesta about that. It's too soon, man. It's too soon. I'm pretty sure he died trying to cook his fish actually the other day when he accidentally sculled and ran upstairs. Another item
let's not talk about accidental deaths, Pure Fan. We covered that one earlier. I think you wanted to forget about it. We just saw another chest get looted in this little bit of a discussion. Poker, I believe, managed to grab I think it was a Carol's top and an Arim's bottom. So two pretty good pieces there. Probably not as valuable in this Deadman considering the length of the tournament. Maybe those are something that could be updated in the future and have some really big up. Maybe we could have something new in there. Is there anything that you could think of being put into that chest that doesn't exist at the moment that could be really cool?
So I think that one of the best items that you can see from them is the Infernal Cape, because obviously doing an Infernal Cape in the general game as well is just such a struggle, such a difficulty. So getting that is just massive for you with a +8 strength bonus. And in general, being a range tank is really beneficial for those VLS max hits that you're going to get as well. In terms of items that you want to see, the thing about this tournament is it's very competitive, so you start putting in items that are maybe a little bit too overpowered. For example, the Elijah Spirit Shield, it suddenly changes the entire dynamic into who can loot the chest, who can get PID on the chest. You know how much I love PID. But yeah, I think it's probably... It's a nice, like you said before, it's a nice incentive for solo players to want to go out and roam around like these two buddies are doing right here. This is what demo's all about, man.
Exactly. These are best friends. It's just, they just thought, hey, called his mate, the Deadman's on, we've got nothing better to do, let's play it. And then before you knew it, they're hooked and they're now in full barrows. They're going to be going into the complete unknown, because in a minute they're going to get butchered. But they probably had the time of their lives leading up to that point, so...
I mean, here's the thing, man. We've seen solo players get through this area because all the clans are so focused on fighting each other.
Oh yeah, for sure. And as well as if you can figure out what cape they've got as well, there are traders within the wilderness that you can go buy them from.
Loot that cape, you might get
lucky, or even loot it. Exactly. One telegrab from the outskirts, put the cape on, and suddenly you're a member of the Lit Alliance. Yeah.
So we talked about the Lit and the Frontline Alliance. Another clan involved with them is also AF, Ancient Fury, a massive 07 clan. Really interesting strategy, actually. In the first few days, they held down KBD because it drops Black Dragon Hides, and they managed to control the entire Black Dragon Hide set market, which just funneled them loads of money to get all the stats that they needed, all the money for training and gear, and also just, through the wilderness, got those Odium wards and and just in general malediction wards for the almost best in slot gear for the final as well. They actually want to mention as well, they've got a personal vendetta against KempQ. So KempQ has been lurking around the West Bank of Varrock and between the Grand Exchange, and somehow one of their clan banks got caught between the two, forgetting it was a dangerous area, and KempQ killed him for absolutely everything. So Martin, if you're out there, watch your back, mate. It looks like Ancient Fury is coming for you. Revenant is another big clan as well in this alliance. I'm trying to give a little bit about all these clans because there's not much going on while these clans are just waiting to start all this action. So it's important to talk about them. They're one of the clans that won the biggest ever, longest multi-history against Rot, apparently, which was 45 hours long. So these guys are ready for a big battle in the multi-phase. And a lot of these clans as well that are playing DMM for the first time officially, they have all that experience from 07, and like I said before, with a whole month to train up, nobody has the excuse that they can't get max stats.
Sorry, Pure, someone just... CNG-FAR. Never mind about C engineer, it's CNG-FAR. This man is in 2030. Managed to pick up a DFS from the chest. Well, an absolute legend. I think there's going to be a few interesting names that we'll see coming up in this tournament. Some of them with some well-known content creators as well. You thought they would have known better, but apparently it will be worth the giggle that we'll all get on screen during the show when they do end up showing up on the screen. We've seen a lot of movement going through here now. It looks like one of the clans is playing to converge on another, and as they start appearing, you can really just see the barrages going across. Each member's getting caught, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in a clump, and they're just falling like flies here.
Yeah, so strategy right here, being able to wrap around your opponents, and this is where the really essential calling comes into place. There's experienced teams on 07 where they have battles every single week on Saturdays or Sunday when every single clan comes out. That practice is going into this DMM tournament final, and right now being able to call out those clumps and be able to push all of their Chinchompers and all those barrage clumps together and take out as many members as possible. It doesn't come down to really who has the most members in situations like this. It does come down to strategies and being able to hit fast and hit quick and not lose too many members yourself. Now, of course, we talked about a bunch of alliances. We've touched on those. We'll touch on them a little bit more in a little bit, but there are so many different fights going on right now. Not engaging sometimes when you shouldn't be is difficult. But with the fog pushing these players into these final areas, they kind of have no choice right now. They have to gain the higher ground and move into these final areas.
And you can really just see how many players there are here, and it's just a case of, as you said, as that fog starts to come in, the whole purpose is to dwindle down the numbers. Only the top 128 players are going to be able to go through. Now, in these kind of situations, do you want to be the aggressor or the defender? I guess having the high ground is pretty good because it means that the opponent has to come closer to you for you to be able to render in at times, and they can then keep you caught at the bottom and easier to call out. Also, you can actually see them, whereas I think if you have the higher ground where the camera works, you can't always see your opponent as well. We can now see a lot of movement going across. So it looks like they managed to clear out everyone that they needed to in that section. Probably a very wise move. They wanted to potentially look at making sure that less people converged up to that point as possible, whilst also defending the next drop. We can see that red zone. Looks like there's a drop that's going to be there, or it's a drop that has already been there in the past. But now that they've taken out those opponents, they can start moving back towards Anarchal and worry about the next set of threats that are going to be sat there defending it. Now, if you were in a clan, Pure Spam, what would you want to be? Would you want to have been securing the safe spot and defending it, or would you want to be an aggressor going into a safe spot?
We usually see, actually, in the Anarchal area, quite interestingly, right in the middle, there's only 2 ways into a little small area, which is quite good for defending. But if you get caught there and you're getting clumped, there's only one way out, which you're going to get destroyed in as well. So it does come down to, I guess, strategy and whether you've infiltrated other teams with spies, if they're going to come from the east or come to the west, and then making the informed decision on how to react to that as well. But if you're getting left behind right here as a straggler, you're going to get either picked off by the fog mechanic, which will just one-hit you if you don't make it to the final zone early enough, or you're going to be picked off by other clans potentially coming in a little bit late, or clans that you're trying to face and not have enough numbers here, really. So the clans like Fools, the clans like Blazers as well, and all those multi-teams like DL, ROT, TS that have that experience of 07 clanning on a weekly basis for many years now, this is their time to shine.
Okay, so we can see that it's the Gold Capers coming up against the Saradomin Wizards, it would appear. The Saradomin Wizards being on the defensive, those wearing the blue cape with the little prayer symbol in the center of it. We can see that they're just sticking to the edges at the moment. None of them have really ran in force, but I do believe that they've lost quite a lot of members actually to this kind of little scuffle that they've had. There's been a few people that have been dropping, and that might be putting the gold members at a little bit of a disadvantage, but they do seem to have a huge amount of players in comparison. Difficult to tell though with the with the mechanics of old school RuneScape and how players can stack on one another, it could be that every one player we see has 5 underneath them, and it's just not given an accurate representation of how many there are still available. But the carnage that just ensues with these moments is just insane. This poor fella, is he going to survive? No way. He just managed to get through to there. Here we go. We've got a lot of movement going in now. They're all pushing forward. We're going to see if they manage to catch freezes on this. This could be absolutely devastating for the Gold Cape members.
I was going to say the Gold Cape members didn't really rush as one big unit well enough, and the defending force was able to get a lot of those freezes and a lot of those clumps. And obviously when you're having to get your HP being destroyed right now, you're having to just click on your food and you can't do DPS back, you can't fight back. So I'd say right now the defenders are probably having a bit of a better time, although saying
that though, but power in numbers here, PureSpam, we can see that. Like, they look to be taking so much damage. It might be that they send in a few stragglers to begin with just to soak up the damage, leave their most powerful members at the back line. Some pretty decent strategies here. We go back to Roman times. The strategy in this war is just insane.
Oh, absolutely. And I think actually having that positioning of being able to go through the inner citadel from the south there made it all the more powerful for the yellow members to actually get into this fight and deal some damage really well. But right now, I mean, look at that clump of the blue capes in the northeast corner up here. They're not got really much of a chance now to try and get together. They have to get out of that clump, because once you're getting clumped, once those chompers are flying at your head, you know, like I said before, one of your members gets hit, you're getting hit if you're in a 3-3 ratio next to them. And
they've been surrounded in gold, Ian. If
Literally.
you look on the screen now, they've been surrounded in gold. You've got gold to the left, gold to the right. The guys up at the top are just in the center being attacked from both sides. There's no escape for them now. They either have to defeat them or they've lost. Power by numbers has just completely overthrown them.
Yeah, and again, actually, really good move from the golden players now to wrap around, like I said before, going around the east as well and catch those clumps. Now it looks like a lot of the blue members aren't even able to really retaliate back, and they're just kind of being pushed into certain areas. And once they get clumps like that, there's not really any returning from it if they don't really fight back at the same time. And maybe the gold members, since they're so huge, they had a few of those assassins we talked about earlier. They're actually within the ranks and are now fighting them from within as well. Right now, we see a lot of blood barrages being pushed out because the Zuriel staff, of course, has a 50% increased HP heal. So if you are able to get those blood barrages off on those big clumps, even if you're in full tank gear, you can go from 30, 40 hit points all the way back to full and save those precious resources that you've got left, the brews and the sharks and such. But we're seeing members falling now. That guy had like max tank as well in the middle. And a bit of a pushback, though, from the blue members. They're starting to be more ferocious at the moment. It is really hard to tell, of course, this early on, who is winning this fight. It really, I know we say it a lot, but it really is anybody's game. The one thing I'd be concerned about right now for the members that are a little bit further north is that they are not in the safe zone. And if the fog does come in a little bit quicker, it will just one-hit all of them. Now, we're flying across to Falador right now, which a massive push is being done by this other alliance. It doesn't look to be the gold capes that we saw before. But they're going in. Oh, they're going towards the gold cape.
In towards the gold capes, and oh my god, the number of people that just appeared on that screen.
That was a big explosion. I think those gold capes are actually being positioned in between the two clans. They have a clan to the west as well of them. So if they're not careful, they're going to have a really difficult time defending. They have to really position themselves either south or north. Otherwise, they're going to get,
behind the trees from before that were waiting in singles, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if they're smart about it, the guys that are at the lake at the moment, and they push in quickly, which I believe they might be starting to do, then it's going to be a bad time for this massive alliance of gold capes.
Hopefully they can manage to keep up their spells. So again, if those of you that might miss the start, there's going to be 3 main abilities being used during this little encounter. There's going to be the chin chompers, which are the cute little animals that get thrown at players and explode. They're a ranged damage attack, which deal damage in a 3x3 radius. So any players caught in that blast wave will take damage. Then there's Ice Barrage, which is the big spell that causes a nice white block around players that freezes them in place for 20 seconds and also deals damage in a 3x3 area, so it can catch everyone and pretty much decimate them. And then there's also the Blood Barrage spell, which are these red speckles that will appear. That spell is another 3x3 AoE spell. Doesn't freeze, but still does pretty damn good damage and also heals you for a percentage of the damage that you deal. And if you're seeing people with the long staff, the little green orb at the top, that's the Zuriel staff, that increases the amount that you get healed. So Pure mentioned that earlier, you're going to be able to top yourself back up to full. So you'll see them switching between these freezes to catch their opponents in a pretty unfavorable position on their part, let their teammates start carrying on with the damage, and then they'll be healing themselves up at the same time. We can see a load of people falling in the center here. That pinto thing happened.
There it is.
We just watched this circle just completely
There's a massive clump in the final area. And to the southeast there, we saw another little team potentially lurking. I'd have to guess that the massive Tartar alliance or the big Lit alliance, that are the yellow capes, one or the other. And right there, I saw a really interesting strategy that I've not seen in previous tournaments, actually, where someone used telegrab off the corner to try and grab those vital resources they need on the normal spellbook.
Hey, look, every brew counts.
Pretty interesting. Yeah, literally every does count. We said before,
although, as you say, maybe they got spellbook swap. People might potentially be in that position.
Yes, of course. Just before the final 1v1, people can access their banks and they can re-gear and change their spells if they have a magic cape in the bank.
Oh, there we go. We just saw it, as you mentioned, in the corner. I just spotted a telegrab. So someone is definitely using standard magics here.
Right now, again, pretty hard to tell which team's winning, but I think the Yellow Capes really have been caught out here. I see a lot of the Yellow Capes actually fighting their own ranks, and we see so many people falling in that south clump. Look at all those damage stacks and people's HP going from all the way green bar to just red in a matter of like 1 or 2 game ticks when all those chinchompas are thrown at you and implode and demolish you all in basically one hit.
Yeah, they look cute, but they're nasty. Hell, nasty. So, I mean, one thing that is important to note out is that whilst people are wearing these wilderness capes, the team capes that do help you prevent you from accidentally misclicking on your teammate, these spells that deal damage in an AoE radius, there is no such thing as like friendly fire. If one of your teammates is with the enemy and you catch your enemy, your teammate gets frozen as well and gets taken and takes damage. And then as soon as that happens, it's very difficult to just quickly, to like shout out, have clear comms, be like, I'm in the clump, don't attack. Because as a clan leader and as someone who is calling out, surely it's not worth you not DPSing down 3 enemies to save one of your teammates. You'd rather just, do a little bit of, just take one for the team. So you don't want to be in those positions, and you definitely can accidentally be caught out and lose some friends.
I mean, here's the thing with all these clans, there are just so many players that need to make it through to the finals. There are only 256 spots open. We have 246 members of Hey Boys alone. Tartar Alliance potentially has like 200 to 300 people. There's the Fools score. We've not even talked about Fools yet as well. The Finnish Warriors that have come back for this tournament. Although I'm not too sure how seriously their alliances. I believe they're with Blazers and with GG as well, but they've got a good fighting chance as well. We have 950 players remaining now, so there's still so many people that need to be eliminated in order to go through this 1v versus 1 area. You've got Frontline of 100 plus, you've got Blazers with almost 100 players, GG with almost 100 players, AC, the anonymous community, with 40, CD with 40, and there's lots of other smaller clans as well. So even in these little alliances that they formed, at some point there will have to be the decision to start backstabbing one another. And the question is, are you going to risk that? In previous tournaments, we've had clans that have gone for that strategy and then it's ended up ruining their alliance for them and no other clan can trust them ever again. But ultimately, they're all playing for the win, aren't they? And these alliances have mostly just been formed to give each other the best chance of getting into the 1 versus 1s. But when the alliances end up being, 400, 500 people strong, it's just
sacrifices
not possible to
just have to be made at the end of the day.
Exactly, yeah. It's for the greater good, so to speak.
So being in touch with these clan members, quite well, Pure Spam, how many of them have these kind of like agreements in place of who they are willing to sacrifice? Is that a thing, or is it just a case of once we get through to the safe area, it is every man for himself? How does that normally work from your experience?
It's not a thing, and to be fair, another clan, Overtake, for example, they've played for around 5 tournaments, and actually, at the beginning of this tournament, they were in the front line in the Litter Alliance, but they were BS'd and backstabbed repeatedly, so switched to a new alliance they created with some other teams, such as CD, Harassers, GSG, who's the Pure Sebs clan as well, and Kings, as well as a secret clan, Soup's little thing he's got going on there, the Hey Boys members. So,
Super Soups.
So a lot of the clans are just like, I don't want to risk being backstabbed and being, just being a pawn and being a meat shield in your efforts to try and get into the 1 versus 1s. They basically try to be in the smaller clans so that they can be targeted a little bit less, because obviously the big teams like Lit, Fools, Blazers, Tartar, Frontline, all these guys, and Rot as well, TS, AF. These guys have, lots of clan beef, lots of clan drama from in the past, and they want to take each other out. Like I said before, they've got, spies and people infiltrating different clans to try and snipe them out. So a lot of the smaller clans are just hoping that they can kind of go unknown, or they're saying that in this final area, it's pretty difficult to avoid combat. Although saying that, we now have, how many players left, do you reckon? 800 already, so in the last couple of minutes, a couple hundred have just fallen. And
what we're going to see...
this,
Yeah, normally around about this point is we'll start to see, as the masses have fallen, we will see these small teams regroup, and they typically like to take one corner. However, I say that, everyone is just getting killed over at Anacol. That is just completely still a bloodbath. Falador just seems to be like they are literally having a picnic in the park. But we will eventually see these teams just taking on the corners, and you're going to start to see them just start walking around in a square. as they try and trail off and just catch people out of guard. Maybe someone that isn't quite paying attention and forgets to walk with their team gets caught out. They take them out. Like here, for example, this solo warrior manages to get frozen and all the damage just dealt out. There you go, absolutely trampled upon. The movement now coming in from one corner into the other as they start swarming, trying to just overwhelm them with power by numbers, I think, is the game here for this particular corner of this area of Falador Park.
Yeah, what I mentioned before, a lot of these guys do have maybe lower leveled or accounts, or potentially people that are clan members. You know, we talked about 50, 100 plus clans strong, but not all of those guys are, you know, kitted out for the final. They don't all have maximum gear, and they're not, you know, as capable as others in terms of their Fed PK as being able to actually win the tournament in the 1v1 stage, because then it comes down to real PKing prowess and
Sure.
less so about, you know, how strong and how organized your clan is in this multi-phase. So I think what a lot of the strategies are is that you push your smaller members in first, even though they're all obviously they've had a month to level up to almost max stats pretty much, and then the higher members are kind of being defended and tanked from behind, and they catch up a little bit, and they just try and keep their supplies nice and high, throw in the occasional blood barrage. They have to use their own brews and their own sharks, but ultimately, you know, like we said before, with the clan spies, with people, you know, trying to snipe each other in this multi-final area, nothing is, you know, concrete. Even though you've got maybe, you know, 100 people trying to defend you, and you're trying to push through the best strategy possible, a few people that get those stragglers get left behind, they'll get picked off, and it is a very long duration of this final hour where they are trying to take each other out. We look at this guy, for example, he had I think 12 brews left, so he's in for quite a few more blood barrages. Although saying that, you know, you get caught with, when there's 50 people on you, if there's a clump being called out and they all get thrown chompers at them in one hit,
oh yeah,
there's not much you can really do about it.
Is it called impatient? So there is a potential that he just wants to, you know, run out and just, you know, take me, guys, I'm ready.
We can talk about a few of the clans as well that are in here. So I mentioned before, there's a smaller clan alliance from OT, CD, GSG, Harassers, SD Kings, Hey Boys.
LOL.
Excuse me. And then there was also
It's the abbreviations. They just get to me. There's so many of them now.
I could name their full clans, but I'd be here for hours. There's so many different teams. I want to give them all a little bit of exposure, though. We mentioned about Blazers before as well, led by Wiggled. The most notable members being Manked, who's won previous tournaments. West Ham, who just won the EU qualifier for the recent 1v1s. You have Saeed, who came second place in the 1v1s only overall, just being beaten by 10-13. There's Bellis, who's won before. There's Reese, Shawnee, Solo Mission, another fantastic content creators, been absolutely slapping those YouTube vids. And they've won many tournaments, like over $100,000 prize money. Usually see them queuing up with Fools because of Blazers and Eomeries. Good connections they've got. And the Finnish Warriors, like we said before, they actually closed before. They used to always use their money from the prize money to go on little cruises together and such. But they've come back. They actually disbanded their clan, I think, a year ago or so. And they've come back because of the COVID situation. And they've been pretty much unmatched in the multi-areas throughout this tournament. So I'm not too sure exactly which clan they are. We won't be able to tell until a bit later, most likely. But if they're in here, I wouldn't be surprised.
Moment. We'll see them shouting out their clans just as we will.
Yeah,
many
hashtag
others as we get through these, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Looks like we've just hit 600 players left in this tournament.
Ooh.
So in that time we've been speaking, 200 players have fallen. It won't be long now. We only need to lose just a couple hundred more until we get down to that 128. So expect the next few minutes to start increasing in terms of action. There will become a point where the decisions have to be made of who are going to be the unlucky ones, the ones that have to fall, and the ones that will end up being able to progress through. We can see that one of the things actually that you'll notice a lot of players using here is the Crystal Shield is back. It's something that was disabled for previous tournaments, but recent change in this tournament allowed it to come back into fruition, probably because of the fact that with Raids gear, with the PvP weapons that are available, the Vestas Longsword, Zoriel's Staff and such, the extra defense bonus is actually really nice and probably necessary to not just be completely squashed.
The range defense is huge, man, and also not just that, but you can actually get multiple Crystal Shields, of course, if you want to have one for this phase and it starts to degrade a little bit. They're also really easy to get. I mean, obviously the quest line you have to do for Regicide and such, and Roving Elves, but they're definitely worth having, almost mandatory for a lot of these clans. And again, we see this constant circling where one clan moves, the other moves as well, and those players
really
that
interesting,
get left behind
actually.
a little bit are getting hit.
There are three magicians, four magicians in the center that are just freezing these corners.
But look at this!
No one is attacking them.
Look at the west corner. There's just people inside, just actually obliterating themselves, almost like they're spies or something. I just saw so many clumps going in, and it looks like some of those clans that are in the middle and on this western course are potentially have those infiltrators that are just chucking those blood barrages in and trying to snipe out those prolific names. Whereas Southeast is also happening as well. Look at those clumps. A load of people are just going to fall right now in a matter of seconds, just not checking out the HP enough, and those big damage splats, chins, and of course the mage as well. You can't protect from both of them at the same time. And when
there's 40 people attacking you at once, it doesn't matter how much you're
Absolutely.
looking at. Although we have seen very often in previous tournaments, and it has been known that people do die when they have food in their events and don't use it. So I wouldn't put it past people. However, I think in these situations, it's a little bit different because it's just too much at once.
We have almost 500 players remaining now, which means that when half of these guys go out, they're out for the count, of course, and then we'll go on to the 1v1 stage, which is when everyone can bank. They can take out their best gear possible. Although saying that, right in the middle, I see some guy in full armor deal right now, which is looking like an easy meal ticket for someone in the multi-phase. I'm surprised the players will be using that gear, but to be fair, if you've got that gear advantage, that huge mage defense, you're not going to get frozen as easily, and you've got a bit of a better chance of making it to the final. DFSs as well are being seen right now, which is considered one of those big ticket items.
In the corner? I think people just don't care about gear that much. There's AGS's real stuff. It's just all there.
Absolutely. And back to Falador right now. Similar kind of thing happening at the moment. Sorry, Anakal right now. It's been crazy right now.
It's okay.
We're looking around again, just pushing around in circles, trying to get this ground and try and take over those members that you can. If you get left behind, you're going to get frozen. You're going to get picked off. So it's just absolutely essential to listen to those callers. And as well as that, actually, a lot of these clan alliances, like we said before, they consist of 4, 5, 6 teams sometimes, and they're not all on the same intercoms. So even if you're in the same alliance of other people, if you're a little bit late and you're not working together, it's going to be essential to trying to keep up with everyone. And there will be some people that are just going to fall, and there's going to be nothing you can do about it, to be honest.
Sure, I mean, it's just going to happen. As I say, like when there is literally this much carnage just ensuing, that it's really hard, even for the best callers in the whole of the history of RuneScape. You're not going to be able to cover everything. You are going to have people that will be panicking as well, trying to keep cool, calm, and collected during these situations. I can't imagine is very easy. I'm already sweating just watching it. So imagine being there and playing it. I would fall. That's probably why I'm here, though, in all fairness. And we can see, though, that the other players are still falling as well. It's been non-stop in these 2 safe zones. Normally, there is a stalemate, and we did see it at the very start of the tournament, but now it is just back and forth the whole time. Every now and then, you'll just see a clump like there, just as we went past with the camera. 5 or 6 people just being barraged. It looks like they are being attacked from the outsides of their own team now. And Falador, this top corner, is just completely falling as well.
I'm surprised that people are actually staying in the middle. Maybe they're being targeted a little bit less because everyone's focusing so much on staying alive and moving with their clan, as opposed to maybe pushing out that DPS and fighting back. And now, of course, the fog has entered the final area, which means these guys, it's just a race against time, trying to do damage at the same time as eating food. And there we go. The final 1 to 8 from the Falador have been teleported across, and looks like Anakal, the same is about to happen. Those constant 5 stacks of the fog as it draws in closer. Comes down to a tank test. Do you have that combo food? Do you have those Phoenix necklaces that can break on impact when you get low HP and save your life and take you through? It looks like the Anakal area is about to finish up as well. Just trying to push out those last few chins, those last few blood barrages to both stay alive and take out the competition as best as possible. And now all these clans just got to hope that their most fed PKers for the 1v1 stage have made it thus far and have been protected and get through.
So it's going to be one of the surely a little bit of a risk as well with trying to play it safe during these last few moments of not forcing the action upon the enemy team, is that you do run the chance of your strongest PKers that you have kept alive for this whole time you defended them falling just because they're out of supplies or by fog. This damage really does stack up really fast. You can see it. It's like every tick, it's just 5 damage coming through.
Yep.
And
of course, the biggest piece of food these guys are using to stay alive is brews, and once you use brews, of course, your stats drain, so you're not able to use blood barrage and heal yourself up. But there it is, the final 1-2-8 from Anakal being taken across.
That was probably the fastest that those moments have ever ended. And well, I say that, it's timed, so there is a point where it will end. But I mean, in terms of players dropping, we've never seen action like that from previous Deadman mode tournaments. There is normally that stalemate until the very end, but this was just non-stop action.
I mean, the most interesting thing as well was the fact that, in previous tournaments we've seen people in Mystics and Black Dragon Hide and maybe Dragon and Rune Armor, but this time I didn't see almost a single person that wasn't in Barrow's gear at least. I even saw some DFSs, like we said before, some Crystal Shields, some Armadil. Everyone was really kitted out in whatever they could get, the best chance against those 1v1s. And we're about to jump into the 1v1 stage now, which crowns the champion of the Deadman mode, of course.
It was, I've got to say, it was an absolutely incredible spectacle to watch. It's so interesting being able to see those formations happening and the metas and just, you know, people standing off and waiting, and then, you know, you see the clans working together, forming, you know, calling behind the scenes. Obviously, I've witnessed a lot of that in previous things, and it's incredible as someone who's a bit more of an outsider to PvP, being able to see those things happen. And as you mentioned, we want to have the top 256 players who are going to be able to re-gear, use their banks, prepare their supplies, and, you know, have a quick breather before they head into the 1v1s. I mean, that was, a lot of demolition during that. And, you know, in terms of solo players, I find like you tend to see a lot of solo players merging into clans before they go into these kinds of things. But obviously, they're going to be able to stand on their own 2 feet when it comes to the 1v1s. Mm-hmm. It's an entirely different beast. But they, you know, if you are a solo player and you've managed to make it through, you know, what's the plan now?
Well, I mean, at the moment they're able to re-gear, so they take away all their multi-gear put on the bank. Maybe they can upgrade to any, you know, of those big ticket items that we talked about before. Maybe we'll see a few spirit shields coming into play here that other players have been camping corp for, or the God Wars dungeon gear, or the raids gear like the ancestral that we've not seen before in these finals. So in the first inventory, they can have as many brews as they want and such. And then after that, everybody is given the same inventory every single time, the same amount of sharks, brews, and that. And it comes down to just who is the better PKer. Although saying that, if you are a solo player and you've got this far and you're able to beat one of those, you know, really fed clan members, then you will be able to pick up their items and use them to your advantage. And the thing with the 1v1 stages, especially now in 2020 old school RuneScape, so many players are just insane at the game, and a lot of it does come down to a little bit of RNG, but also, you know, the real skill comes down to reading your opponent, understanding how they PK and how to combat that, which we'll get into when we start watching the 1v1s. But right now, I think the biggest factor for everyone is really the nerves, to be honest, and getting those under control. As we've always heard about Manx, for example, listen to classical music and Beethoven and such to calm himself down and do his utmost best. But I think it's going to be crazy.
You're talking about gear setups. Obviously, when you're in the permadeath stage, it's more about defensive gear so that you can protect yourself and manage to make it through as much as possible. But in terms of, you know, when you go onto the 1v1s, it's more aggressive. What kind of gear are you hoping to see? Maybe not expecting, but hoping.
I mean, I always like hope for that Darok's KO, just because it's so old school. I would love to see it, but it's just, the reality is that it's just not consistent enough these days. So I think in terms of what are we going to see, I know for a fact that there are people out there with the Armadillo crossbow, we've got the PvP weapons. It's probably going to be a case of some insane VLS specs to just completely hammer down their opponents. Going back to the 1v1 tournament, for example, we saw that you get 2 specs off that hit pretty much near max, and it takes away almost all of your opponent's food, and that's all that it takes to be able to turn the tide of battle in these fights. You got to look for your opponent going into the wrong gear sets, putting on maybe their mage robes, and then instantly their melee defense has been dropped. So yeah, I would probably like just to see something a little bit more old school, classic old school, with either the Darok KO, maybe even getting out the AGS. Who knows? We might even see the Fabled 73 again. But
oh no!
Yeah, those would be good. I always liked it. Well, it happened in the 1v1, so it never know, it may happen again. But yeah, that's definitely going to be it for me. I want to see some old school combos coming out here. I don't want to see range tank. I want to see people going full on Tribrid and then bringing out the AGS whack or something like that.
Yeah, so there's 2 main traditional routes that players take, and one is being that Tribrid gear setup, which is what people were using in the 1v1 tournament recently, which is, you know, range, mage, and melee, catching those freezes, DD bridding underneath so their opponent doesn't really know how to read them, and then stepping out and trying to output as much DPS as possible. Like you mentioned before, you know, higher offensive gear here is going to be much more important than having that defensive gear, although being able to switch and having multiple switches to be able to make use of both is going to be essential as well. Now, the range tank meta we said before, it's something that we saw in early demo tournaments, for example, with the Verax setup that went and took it once. But this time round, we have things like Ancestral. Everyone's been grinding for a whole month, so there's spirit shields in the game as well. And nobody really knows what the best is. I personally want to see a Tribrid take it, of course. But the range tanks have got a good shout too. It comes down to those big special attacks. You just
reminded me, actually. What I would think would be really cool would be to see someone in full Justicia, because that set looks amazing. If someone has managed to get the full set, is just rocking with Vesta's spear, hits the special attack, watch it whip around, then they do some crazy KO
I've got to wrap you up on your dream there, right? Keep daydreaming. But in just a moment, we are going to take a little break before we go back to the 1v1s and see those top players competing. And we will also be giving away a Razer Kraken Ultimate headset. And just before we break, I will say that the 10% off code is having a few issues in some regions, but Jagex are working to try and sort that out as quickly as possible. So I will see you guys after the break. See you in 5. and welcome back to the Deadman Final 2020. Just after the break, or just before the break I should say, we saw the Permadeath stage where there was absolute chaos, and in just a few moments we'll be going into the 1v1s where we can see some fantastic PvP action. But before that, we'll be giving away a Razer Kraken Ultimate headset, and all you need to do to win it is type Razer in the chat. Doesn't matter whether it's capitals or lowercase, no exclamation mark, just type Razer in the chat and you can get your hands on that headset. Once again, a massive thank you to both Intel and Razer for sponsoring this event today. It's very much appreciated. So, Ian, Ben, we're going into the 1v1s in just a moment. Are you excited?
This is what I've been waiting for. This is the most riveting part of the entire experience, in my opinion. You know, these guys have been sweating out Deadman mode in the hot summer heat as well for the past month long straight. And obviously, with this pandemic, like I said before, in this lockdown, they're able to actually put as many hours as possible. So everyone here we're going to see most likely is going to be level 120 plus combat with 99 everything. They're also, of course, going to have the most optimal gear for this one. This is one final. We'll see either one of two builds: the tank meta, which has Vengeance Spellbook, which deals damage back proportionally based on what damage you get dealt every 30 seconds, as well as really high range and mage defense gear. And we'll also have the Tribrid setup, which is optimally using range, mage, and melee to try and catch your opponent off prayer, to catch those essential freezes as well, of course, and to basically see who is deemed the best Deadman mode player who's going to take home that grand prize. So yeah, I'm incredibly excited for this. I'm really excited.
And we have a few content creators that we know managed to make it through as well. Aiza, I know you know a little bit of information on this.
Yeah, so I was just during the break, as you do, just scrolling through Twitter. We've seen a few people that have managed to get it through. I know that Torvesta has managed to get through into the 1v1 stage, didn't die to a cave this time. I also believe that we've got Oda has made it through as well. Some people, unfortunately, they didn't make it through. Some players such as Skidler, Kevin, which is Framed, and Skillspecs didn't manage to get through. Mika as well. Zulu also had fallen. So we'll get more information as we actually join into the 1v1s as players that have secret names that we don't want to reveal just yet. And as soon as we do, we'll let you know when we get into those fights. But keep an eye out because we have got some pretty big names that are still in there from content creators, but also those that are just very, very good PvPers. As Pure Spam touched on, the 1v1 stage now is where it really matters. Deadman's great because you get to see both sides of it. You get to see how good clans can kind of coordinate their attacks, how good their communications are, but now you get to see the individual skill. And just like in the 1v1 tournament, we have seen some players in this game are ridiculously skilled. The gear switches that they can do, the speed of them, the change in the prayers and getting those one-tick barrages and such that come out, it's just an incredible sight to see. So, yeah, keep your eyes peeled, look out for those different gear setups. We'll try and talk you through it as well. If you're not too familiar with old school RuneScape and PvP especially, we'll try and let you know at the start of the fight and during those exactly what's going on, what kind of gear they're wearing and why it's important. But mostly just enjoy, look at the damage splats because they can be huge with the gear that people have coming up into this section of the tournament.
I was going to say, actually some of the content creators that have made it through as well are actually streaming right now, so make sure you give them a shout out too, and go say hello to, for example, Oda Block and Foe and MMORPG Curtis, all representing different teams as well. West Ham, who got through to the EU, won the EU qualifications for the 1v1 earlier, he's definitely one to watch as well. 61M2, representing Tata, like I mentioned before. Yeah, we're in for a real treat, I think.
Well, we don't have to wait too much longer because we're about to go into it, but before that, the Razer giveaway is now closed. Entries are closed. However, if you would like to go and get some items from the Razer website, you can still use that 10% off code, which is JAGX10. That works for the next 48 hours. But without further ado, it's time to go into the first round of the 1v1s.
Here we go. It looks like things have already kicked off. We've spent a little bit too much time talking, so we can see already that we've got our Robert, who is normally the guy running around with DDS during the tournaments, has got himself some pretty interesting equipment, an imbued heart here. And also, is that the Twisted Buckler, I believe, that he's got?
That's DF. Oh, in his inventory, yeah, Twisted Buckler. That's actually insane. He actually just chanced that guy with a 0 VLS spec on 58, I believe it was. Now, as you mentioned before, Robert is one of those prolific names from demo mode content creators. He used to run around with nothing but a DDS. He'd spend the first 24 hours slaying those rock crabs repeatedly to get 99 strength as fast as possible. And then he'd go to the Cafferby Fisher spot and just DDS everyone's heads off for a few raw swordfish. But he was having fun. That's what demo's all about. Now, we're seeing right here a hybrid versus a range tank. Now, Robert has the VLS switch, which has 25% special attack. It has the best thing about the VLS, and the reason why we're going to see it a lot here, and as the most common used special attack weapon, is because the VLS rolls off 25% of your opponent's defense level and bonuses. So it's extremely accurate. And as you mentioned before, hitting those, those 60, 70 specs is just so important. Now, his opponent, Mull, has Tribrid, but I've not seen him really trying to catch any barrages yet. And he's getting slayed right now by Robert.
Do you think it's a case of that he's just not opting to use the barrages, knowing that Robert is going for that range tank into melee hit meta, and with the Armadillo that he has with the Carols, his magic defense is just too high? Because if if he's swapping out to those magic robes, it's going to reduce his defensive massively. And when he's getting hit by, a dragon crossbow in addition to a VLS, with the decent range bonus that he has, Robert's going to be pumping out some pretty serious damage during this fight. So maybe he's just not a risk that's worth taking.
But here's the thing, man. Robert has Vengeance. Every 30 seconds, he's pumping in those Vengeances, which deal back, I believe it's 75% damage on a single hit back to his opponent. So that alone is a huge advantage. Not only that, but he also has a gear advantage. He has Armadillo Chain Skirt, which obviously is pretty powerful too. He could have died so many times here against this guy, Mole. He should have been taken out of the game already. But obviously, with only Bruise, which heals 16 HP per dose, it's the best optimal strategy for this first round before the inventories are replaced with a fair amount of food and such. So, I mean, if you're not careful though, if you get hit a couple of big hits, like 40 to 50 bolts from those special attacks of the bolts, the DCB allows him to use those Dragonstone bolts that come from Vorkath and such. He's got to be very careful now. Maybe Mole's listening to us right now, or his clan leader's like, dude, what are you doing? You're a Tribud. Catch these barrages. That could potentially be happening right now. But looking at food advantages right now, it looks like Robert's pretty much won this one. He's only used like 2 or 3 potions, and his opponent's gone through almost half of his supplies already.
He just got hit a 45 as well with a VLS there, so that's just not something that he wants to be seeing. And nice Morrigan's Javelin going through from Mulbo onto Robert, but as you said, it looks just so one-sided at the moment. I don't think there's any chance for Mul to bring it back. Not often do we say that and actually mean it, because there are chances where these fights can typically just go completely one-sided for the duration of the fight and then turn around at the last moment. But just looking at the difference in terms of gear here, I don't think it's going to be looking very good going forward for Mull. So we've talked about Vengeance. You'll see that, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's the big red skull that appears above the player's head and it says Taste Vengeance. It deals back a portion of the damage that you get from your opponent. So this is going to be basically Robert's strategy. He is playing the long game. Now remember, the players can do this in this first round because you're allowed to bring in your own supplies. As you can see here, they've got full inventory of brews on Robert's side, so he has a huge amount of healing resource available. The next round after this, however, they're going to get given the supplies that are mandated by the Old School RuneScape team for the future rounds. And that's going to make that tank meta a little bit less favourable, because if they do take a serious amount of damage at the start, they deal consistent damage over time. Yes, their defenses are higher, so they should take less damage. But if they do get it wrong, and if they're against a good Tribrid with some pretty good RNG, it can completely turn against them. So it'd be really interesting to see how that plays out, because I can see in a few of the other corners, it seems that range tank is quite prominent in this tournament.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the range tank meta is really powerful, especially considering that everyone's had the time to be able to get those huge major defense items, such as Armadillo, so catching those frees is so difficult. Maybe we can jump over to a different fight and see what everyone else is up to, because it does look like that Robert's going to take this one against Mull. Here's Curtis, the boy, MMORPG, who's also live right now, so we'll give him a little hello if you want to see from his perspective what he's up to. And he is rocking some decent Tribrid setup. He's against a range tank right now, though. Looks like he's got the full Ancestral Switch with the Kodai as well, which has some really high major attack bonus to it too, so catching those frees is going to be huge. He's fighting Maining Alt 7. Now, Maining, I believe, was in Blazers. He's the guy that got maxed stats in this tournament. I don't know if that's another member of Blazers or not, but he's got the Primordials, although Curtis has Eternal Boots as well. He's got DFS, he's got some really decent tank bonus. The Dragon...
The Dragon
he's got the
Hunter
DHCB. Well. Yeah, he's been pumping those raids out too by the looks of things. And yeah, it's going to be a very juicy win for Curtis, I'm sure. Looks like he's up quite a bit of brews. Although saying that, he's only got 3 restores left. So if he doesn't be careful with his brew to restore management, then he could end up ending being quite low stats towards the end of this fight. But
Yeah,
here's
maybe
what we want to see exactly.
how many were needed. So you can see now there's going to be constant damage ticking through. I think it's 2 damage every game tick that happens. And that's just because these fights have gone on a little bit longer than we would like. So automatically the fog will start approaching. I believe it's just going to be consistent now until they run out of supplies, slowly stacking up on them. So all of these fights will very soon come to an end. Looks like this one, however, does seem to be in MMORPG's favour. That was a really nice freeze. He did get hit at 36 there in return, went down quite low. Needs to sip on these brews. The thing with brews, they are great. They heal a lot, but they only heal in short increments. So you really have to chug them to be able to get your HP back up. And that can be bad in a situation like now where you are getting consistent damage dealt against you.
Yeah, and this strategy right now to use those blood barrages too to be able to get his HP back just a little bit higher. It's interesting that Curtis has actually gone for the Kodai as opposed to the Zuriel Staff. Now the Zuriel Staff gives you that 50% extra mage HP healing from blood barrage, as well as a 10% increased catch rate, I believe, on those essential freezes to be able to control the fight, especially versus range tank. Oh, a big 22 bulletproof prayer. If you're able to catch your opponent that's a range tank, they've only got one attack style they can use against you, which is just a range. So if you pray range the entire time, oh, he almost actually KO'd maining there with that 35 bolt. If that was a 37 or 38, he would have gone down right there. But Curtis, you know, understanding that mage is essential, and that's why he's gone for the Kodai to catch those freezes with the plus 25 mage bonus, I think it has, which is quite a bit higher than the Zuriel Staff, and able to DD as well, of course. And looks like Curtis will take his first round in, and I believe he's representing Lit, potentially not. He's usually with Lethal Intentions. And yeah, a very good win for Curtis. Every single tournament we see him getting better and better. He practices like crazy. Obviously, the man's a machine when it comes to these to RuneScape in general. He can grind like no other, to be honest.
This is a man who's taken off. I can't even count the amount of days that he's taken off, because I don't think there have been any. He just never stops playing, never stops streaming. Definitely worthwhile checking out his stream for sure. Give him a follow on Twitch. He's got a very, very incredible Iron Man with almost every item in game as well. But as Pure Spam touched on, also very good at PvP and has been improving as each tournament comes by. So yeah, we can see
this guy here, actually, Denab, I can't pronounce that name, DH, basically. No, he's gone down! That was so close. That guy DH was GG, one of GG's best 1v1s apparently, called Rami. So that's going to be a big
Not
loss
looking
to
good
GG.
for them now, then, if that was their best.
Yeah, and Curtis does win his as well with a strong free brew advantage, which is just what we want to see. We want to see those Tribers actually beating those range tanks, which a lot of people think is the meta in some respects. But Curtis showing that it's not always the case if you do get those essential freezes. And with that one, I think we're actually through the first round and now onto the 1-2-8 potentially almost. Oh, Zima, another content creator. Is also, he's is that an Elysian?
Both players are out of food, and yes, that is an Elysian Spirit Shield.
How is Zima He's won that with one food left.
Not only that, but also full Armadillo as well on there. So full Armadillo with the Elysian shield as well. So,
mate, I'm in disbelief. How has Zima got that as well? No disrespect to Zima, but he's not like known as being one of those high people in those clans. If a clan was to get one of the Corporal Beast drops, they're able to feed it to their best members. Zima must have got that with a small group of friends, or just gotten exceedingly lucky on the off kill he did at Corp. Or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he's been given it by the team. But he's live streaming.
Yeah, maybe
right
you're just
now as well,
undervaluing him here, Pure Spam.
Maybe I am underestimating.
He could be the strongest PvP that we've seen, and it's his time to shine.
He's live right now.
Everyone's got to have a platform.
So go say hello to him, man. But that's insane, obviously. Literally, and the Elysian as well has a straight. The reason why we're so baffled by it is because it has a straight damage reduction in these competitions in PvP. So I believe it's something like 20 or is it 30%? I want to say that it reduces damage by on every single hit, which just gives you a huge advantage in these fights where you've got X amount of food in your inventory, and in the range tank meta as well that he's opting for, it's going to be really difficult for people to get through him. But yeah.
I wonder how many more of those we're going to see. That's the first so far.
Well, there are some, rarer items that we're going to see going into this, and this is obviously, people gearing up from their own banks. This is stuff that they have obtained during this tournament. I mean, as you said, you can have some very lucky drops and people that grind things out. I mean, I personally definitely got a couple of VLSs that I shouldn't have had those drops. There's 2 tournaments in a row that I've had a VLS, and it's just me killing ridiculous wilderness things. But that was an amazing round. The 256 players made it through. We'll be going on to the next 1v1 round in just a moment of 128. But before we do that, I have the winner for the Razer Kraken Ultimate headset. So massive congratulations to X Crescent. Hopefully I said that right. Fingers crossed. But I think in just a moment, we'll be going through to see the top 128. These go through so quickly. I mean, we just they're just gonna keep going. We're gonna have overviews, and as we go on into the later fights, we're gonna see them in a bit more detail and get to see them for the full duration. But if we're ready, then I believe we'll be going into the next ones.
Awesome. I need to quickly make a statement as well. I actually got that wrong with mentioning Zima. It's actually someone from Fools, one of the Finnish warriors that has been kitted out with that Elysian Spirit Shield. So we may well see a Fools win, because whoever they've given that Elysian to must be the best of the best within that clan. So yeah, my apologies then for getting that wrong, and good luck to the Finnish warriors in that respect.
Going to be definitely interested to see how that plays out. I wonder if there are any other Elysians in this tournament, or if it is the only one. I mean, it is insane to actually have at least just one, but cool that we've been able to see it at the start, and I wonder if it's going to actually clutch the victory. It is such a huge item, though, so I wouldn't be surprised if we do end up seeing that player make it through to the very end, if not very close. We can now see that we have two players here that also are opting for, I think it's just one range tank on the left with Riparia. And we also have, we were told to say this name very specifically, so forgive me, old school, blame foe, but we have Sucks Off on the right here, who has got the hybrid setup at least, so is opting for the range, mage, and melee, so we'll see how that plays out for foe. Wonder if he can make it actually work in his favour and just dwindle down his opponent. I know that he's not very confident in his own ability with PvP, but is a very formidable hardcore Iron Man as well, so...
You say that, but he is absolutely running a train on this guy right now.
Exactly.
He's also outgearing him.
I was giving him the benefit of the doubt here. As I said, I think he's a great player. He just doesn't believe in himself. But everyone's got to have their moment.
I mean, having the ACB, the Brimstone Boots, and the DFS, and a bit of Ancestral too, and that Kodai Wand, he's not got bad gear, although he is being overgeared against the guy with the DFS, the ACB, the Armador chestplate, and the boots as well, of course. It's a big advantage for a range tank. But hey, if Foe can get some good specs in here, he's got 30% special attack energy left, which is one special. He can catch that off prayer and hit that massive 60 to a 70. Ooh. Then he could very easily take his back. But right now, it's looking very 50-50. Lucky for him, though, he gets hit a 0 back again from Rips. So, I mean, he's still in this. He needs to catch this next freeze momentarily and do so without taking too much damage whatsoever. It looks like they're actually opting just for the range tank back at him. But obviously not having Vengeance is a big disadvantage right now. He needs to catch that freeze as soon as possible and start to, make best use of his range and mage hybrid capabilities. And he's hearing me, he's listening, he's going for the freeze, and now can DD, compose himself again, heal himself back up to full HP, and then get back into this fight. It doesn't wait too long, though, because that Vengeance for every 30 seconds is ticking over, and the longer this fight goes on for, the more Vengeances come into play for Rip.
Absolutely, and one of the things that you see happen a lot during these fights, especially with those that have the ancient magic. So, oh my god, a 60! He just went through onto Foe there, taking him down to nearly death there. Does manage to eat up, uses his last combo food, now down to just 3 sharks. Does look like this isn't going very well for him now. That spec, as I mentioned earlier on, one spec can just take away half of your food supply. That's 3 sharks, followed up by another 28. It looks like Foe is, unfortunately, in a bit of a pickle at the moment. His opponent is just able to just stay calm, keep his composure, and just basically carry on hitting with range. Goes into the melee when he needs to. Foe wearing the full range gear, not that much in terms of defensive against his opponent, who does have the Dharok leg switch out. He's just getting constant damage coming into him, and I think this is going to be the end for him, unfortunately. Makes it through to the second round, and does put on a really good display leading up to this point, but I think this is going to be the end of the road for him. And there it is, Foe has fallen.
Well. To a Fool's member nonetheless as well. I mean, he put up a great fight, and if it wasn't for that massive VLS that we saw, he could have potentially taken that win. Next up, we're seeing is that Pig Money spelt backwards? So I believe is a Blazers member. Yeah. I'm not too sure if it actually is the guy or not. Oh, and he's managed to win his first fight against
his opponent. There we go. The Ghost.
Very strong one there. We have Monka Mage versus...
Mage. That's the best I can do on that one here. That was his name, so we can see the fog is going to start progressing through into this bit of the tournament. It doesn't matter though, that combo just comes out with a vengeance and it takes him down, and does manage to get through to the next round at least. So one thing I just want to touch on while we've got a chance, you'll see here that when their opponents are frozen, they are going to be looking to stand underneath them, and the reason that they're doing that is because it gives them a chance to be able to not take any damage. You stand under your opponent, you can only deal damage in RuneScape if you're at the square adjacent to your opponent. whether that be with melee or with range. And obviously you can use ranged at a further distance. So they'll freeze their opponent, stand underneath, change gear whenever necessary, eat themselves back up to full HP, and then go out and try and get their opponent off guard. That's something that gets utilized a lot. We can see some flowers have been planted here. That's not by chance.
Look how close this is. They're both on 1
it's 2
HP.
Oh my god, the redemption clutch comes out 22. No way. Is Schmilly going to be able to do the redemption back as well?
If he flicks it back too.
No, he doesn't. There we go, unfortunate. He did have prayer as well. Wow.
DF Lithuanian there going through as well. That was some really close fights there, to be honest. And it looks like, as we predicted before, everybody has the maximum gear. Everyone's got that armor deal, those DFSs and such, those ACBs and D crossbows. So yeah, quite a riveting second round.
The standards are so high, and those matches were incredible. Especially that last one that was so incredibly close. I get nervous just going into the wilderness, doing this kind of stuff. I mean, sweaty hands, jad hands, all about. I mean, I don't know how they do it. Honestly, it's absolutely insane. And obviously, we get to see some content creators as well. I mean, Foe, he began so well, didn't he? So well, so strong.
He was looking really good, but I think one of the things that comes down to it, even if you are very, very good mechanically in terms of old school RuneScape, when you get into a tournament setting and everything is on the line and you're in the spotlight, nerves become a real big factor. I imagine that Foe is streaming as well, so his chat is probably going absolutely poggers at the moment in terms of hyping him on. And he'll be able to notice that. As much as he tries to shut it off, he knows that his chat is going to be behind him. That will get to him, and then it's almost as if you see it gets to the midpoint of the fight. Maybe I'm mistaken, but he seemed so in control at the start. Then a few big hits came out, and then it's instantly onto the defensive, and it can be so hard to catch up from that point where your opponent is just constantly able to steamroll you, especially when they are just opting for that range tank meta where they only need to do one switch. They just switch out to their melee whenever they need to. So yeah, it definitely can be something that will catch you out that you're just not expecting, and you can't really do anything about it other than just have experience in coming into a tournament setting.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, we had the 1v1. Oh, sorry.
No, go for it. Go ahead. You're good.
I was going to say we had the 1v1 tournament a few weeks ago where we already saw what people are made of. But Mr. Mammal coming! Is that Mr. Mammal? Say a 55 spec as we jump onto this. Fantastic!
What a beast.
And catching the freeze too. I don't know if this is actually Jordan or not. I'm not too sure if he's competing in the DMM. But if it is him, fair play, man! What an absolute unit right here, destroying.
Doing some underground PvP practice here. The caveman is going to attack.
But right now, seeing that. He's got the Aram switch, he's got the full armor deal, which has huge mage defense bonuses, which is quite the advantage compared to the opponent he's got right now, Finnair. Although we do see a Malediction Ward for that extra bit of mage bonus as well coming in. Iron Mammal is absolutely dominating right now. Look at that inventory difference. He's up half the inventory. He's not eating a single food. Man. No way. We actually saw a KO so early on.
The actual Mammal, and I just want to just go back. Mammal, if you're watching this, I apologize. I did not mean to call you a caveman or an ogre. I am well aware that you're a hill giant. It's just
a hill giant.
The excitement of that fight got to the better of me, so please do not take it personally, okay? The name did have an L. If you looked up in the top right-hand corner, it was a fan, okay? So a very good PvPer.
No, it wasn't. It was not Iron Mammal. It was Elrond Mammal. It was a Fools member. Once again, there's so many of these Fools members that are absolutely stacked and have been practicing for weeks. Obviously, they've come back in full force to prove something. And right now, we've got Song versus Robert. We saw Robert doing really well earlier on and was up loads of food in that first round. But currently, he's down about 4 Sharks already and a Brudos. So it's going to take a lot for him to come back right now. He has got 45% spec, though. If he can catch his opponent off prayer, he can very easily switch it out. He doesn't realize right now that his opponent is vengeanced up, though, so he's got to be very careful of when he utilizes that special attack as not to use up the last bit of HP that he's got. And he's unable to just hit anything. His opponent is praying melee the entire time at the moment. I think he must be aware that Robert does have that VLS combo, and that's it, really.
Well, there's the 50, though. Unfortunately, the Vengeance does actually take him out. That kind of backfired on him with that extra damage. Or a very good player here. We've got Lannister, who we know is formidable in the PvP scene. Pretty well known as well. We'll see how that fight manages to go out. One thing I just wanted to point out from the last fight, Robert's opponent had Azuriel's staff in his inventory, but wasn't using magics. Pyorsum, do you think that was potentially to swap into if he was against someone that was using magics for the extra mage defense?
Basically, yeah, for extra major defense and also tank defense. Wearing a staff actually has some defense stats on it. I believe that Lancaster is actually Sea Engineer Tom, representing GGs. He's making some fantastic YouTube videos lately as well. He has opted for the... Pardon?
The guys with their names just catch us off guard. I didn't realize it was Lancaster, not Lannister.
Lancaster, yeah. He posted a tweet the other day saying he was pretending to be Wiggled, and Wiggled found him. He was like, "You're not Wiggled. I'm Wiggled. I'm not gonna off you." And Twins as well looks to be with the crystal helmet. Is he gonna win this one? Looks like Sea Engineer is going to go through to the 4th round by the looks of things. He's staff bashed for the KO potentially, but he could come back actually. Twins right now. That bonus of that helmet having to do Song of the Elves gives you such huge mage defense. It's like having there he is. He's won it. Having a crystal helmet on yourself is like having a spectral shield just plastered to your head. It's insane. It's also like the rune full helm stats too.
Terry Tank knows absolutely what he wanted to do in this tournament with the Infernal Cape, popping on the Crystal Shield as well. And there it is, a 46 spec to KO his opponent. Pretty decent.
I think Terry Tank is... I think that's Shawnee, actually. Yeah, the Infernal Cape. Absolute gamer going for that. Oh, is this... Curtis is going to win another round again, although Rip does get that Redemption Prayer off when you get down to low HP. And if they hit a 0, it will heal you back up again. He's trying to flick it as best he can. Oh, not quite enough. Curtis goes for the 17 and goes through again. Curtis is doing so well right now. He's gotten so far. We have Oish and we have Super Sitter. I'm not too sure who these two are, but it looks like it is a double... No, it's not. Yeah, it's a double tribrid fight, and Oish just switches right now. He's doing 3 ways with the Ancestral and with the shield the malediction ward as well, to be able to get that mage offense as best as possible. Super's in a big disadvantage here, not having Ancestral, just having Arims. This is going to be quite difficult for him to come back and win this. Although saying that, he's actually up food, which goes to show that even if you don't have that best in slot gear, you're able to, you know, still come back and win. And if he actually does defeat his opponent, he gets that upgrade of that best in slot gear, which gives such a huge increase in damage percentage damage too.
Comparison, going from Arims to Ancestral is huge. It's like an extra, I think it's 5% damage just off those 2 pieces, plus the additional accuracy they get. You do lose a little bit of defensive stats, but in the Tribrid kind of like setup, you are opting for the higher offense rather than defense as your kind of win condition.
I will say that in these...
Imbued Heart, do you think that Imbued Heart is going to be making the difference in this fight maybe for Super Sitter with the extra mage?
If he used it before using his bruise, or after using his bruise, then the mage bonuses will still be there. And obviously, as we know, the higher mage attack you have, the higher mage defense you have as well, based on how the calculations are. But right now, it's really neck and neck. The fog is starting to hit in those little 2s, which will bring them down to 2 HP. And Super is trying to flick on the redemption. He's going to get it here, actually. Lucky for him, but he has no more restores left to get his prayer back up again, which is a huge disadvantage. And the 0 VLS spec off prayer, he's still got a chance to win it. It's either way. Can he get the hit in just before he dies? Looks like he can't. Oh, he did! The 12! No way! The scenes!
That is the kind of reaction that you want to see. The keyboard.
Mate, that was so close. That was insane.
It just shows anything can happen.
Exactly. When the fog starts ticking, you know, anything can happen. And that clutch, I thought it was going to be over because he got froze first as well. But it's just so unlucky with all the 0s from his VLS. Did also get kind of lucky by getting no damage taken back to him, but that ending was clutch.
A combination of, talent and RNG. Well, that was the 1v1s round of 64, but we're about to go into the round of 32. They're going down so quickly, and we are getting to the best of the best now. So let's take a look at the round of 32. If we're ready. We're not ready. That's fine. There we go.
Now we're ready. We get Swag Bag Steve. I love these names. I see some creativity coming out.
So Swagbag Steve is actually Black Mirror, a member of GG, and as we know, Lancaster is a Sea Engineer. So both these guys are actually in the same clan, and they both made it through to the top 32 right now. And Sea Engineer going straight for those VLS specs, trying to build that momentum, and just throws 3 of them in, launches them all into this guy as best as possible. A 51 prayer as well. I mean once you gain that momentum...
Yeah, you get momentum, but also as well, like these fights, they typically last, about a minute or 2, and in that time, you do manage to get some special attack back. So there is no point sitting on 100%. It's literally wasted damage potential, right? Unless you know for sure you're going to be able to get that perfect opportunity to go 4 specs in a row, you might as well at least get 1 out. If you get 1 out and it's high damage and your opponent still doesn't react to it, throw another one. And then another one if you have to. And in Sea Engineer's case, Lancaster, it actually worked out really well. And he's already taken 3 food and all brews from his opponent.
And this is a huge fight for Sea Engineer, because if he's able to beat his opponent who has better gear, he's got both Ancestral switches versus Arims, then he gets a huge upgrade that could take him all the way through to the finals as well. Of course, making it thus far already is massive news for him. He must be so excited because he's been loving demo mode for the first time, I think, in a while, making lots of content on it, whereas he hasn't in the past. But right now, his food advantage is huge. He has a few sharks extra. He has that brew. He's also utilizing, of course, the blood barrages with that Zuriel Starve as best as possible. And Swagbag Steve just simply can't catch those VLS specs that he needs. You know, Sea Engineer of that initial 50 was just massive for him. It gave him the momentum he needed, and he's able to, you know, get the DD on, catch that freeze essential. Although saying that, a 40 back for Swagbag, he can still come back. It still could happen.
Yeah, he definitely needed that to be able to come back, and I think, you know, it's nice to see both players are opting for the tri-bid setup where they're using range mage and melee. The next freeze coming out from Swag is going to be pretty important in terms of the rest of this fight for him. Again, unfortunate spec there, does hit a 0. We're going to see whether he does try and go for it. We've seen in the past that players sometimes have tried to clutch on to catching that freeze too much, and it has ended up actually being their downfall because they take so much damage. Unfortunate here for Sea Engineer. Lansister does get frozen, so this is Swagbag's chance now to get back in. He gets a really nice bolt of 30. Still not managing to get those melee hits out, but now just keep an eye out. As soon as Lansister gets unfrozen, there's a potential of 2 VLS specs coming up, and I imagine that they're going to get used straight away again.
Oh, only a 9 VLS spec there for Swagbag Steve. You need that one to hit to really continue this momentum that he had. He's still down just a couple of food, but he's come back really well right now. As we're going to see here, catching those barrages is just essential. Lansister now going to step underneath, try and switch in, fake out his opponent, catches him off prayer, but hits a 0 as well, unfortunately for him. The VLS spec coming in, but a 0 on Prey Melee too. Still going to hit quite high as it does go through low defense. 32 barrage, Swagbag Steve catches the freeze. He's going to be unfrozen any second now as well. Doing so well to change between those magic and that defensive style, and catching so many hits off prayer. He's on an absolute roll right now. He's come back so well. Sea Engineer now pretty much similar food advantage, and this next freeze is going to be essential to him. The question is, like you just said, is he going to go for that freeze and potentially, you know, overcommit? He catches it, luckily for him, and still getting butchered though. That Ancestral is huge, isn't it?
It really is. It's just making a huge difference in this fight, but you know, if Lansister does manage to get this fight, he does get that upgrade as well, so we'll have to wait and see. However, every opportunity he goes for, Swag is just pumping out damage after damage, and there's a spec coming in from him. That was 3 really big hits in a row now. Nice one following up again with a barrage, and there is one spec for a 40, does manage to do some pretty decent, but it's like he's out of food, down to just 4 HP. He's going to have to try and get a redemption clutch to be able to come back, and like we said, these fights can go in any way. Swagbag Steve was down at the start, is now up 1 food. However, a nice 41 spec coming out. Unfortunately, though, not enough, and Lansister does fall here in the 4th round.
Very, very respectful though. Both players saying good fight. They're in the same clan. They played alongside each other for the entire month, and they must be very proud of themselves for making it thus far as well. Respect to Sea Engineer. Now we have Lima versus Ernie. And looks like it's 2 mages again, both neck and neck, 63 versus 39. The next freeze is essential as well. Either player has special attack, although Lima might get his momentarily. Now, this freeze, are they going to overcommit to it? Who catches it? Both caught. Now it comes down to a tri-bid fight. Who can fake out their opponent and get the opponent to use the wrong prayers and the wrong gear style at the wrong time? Big 26 bolt through the prayer. It might be all over for Lima here, unless he can catch his redemptions. And if he's unfrozen any second now, he got a redemption off. He's got a VLS as well, spec ready. If he can catch him off prayer at the right time, he can potentially win this one, but he needs to catch his opponent off prayer. It was a 13. If it was off prayer, maybe something. Still neck and neck, though, getting those bolts. This next freeze has been caught by Ernie. Can he get frozen back? He has been frozen back. Both players on 10 hit points remaining right now. Who's going to get the next redemption? Lima gets it for the 2nd time, but he has no prayer left right now as well.
Oh, but
there it is,
matter.
19 barrage.
Wow.
That was so close, man. That came down to literal RNG.
What is it with these last fights that we see always coming down to these redemption clutches? I love it. Forget Justicia, forget the AGS, forget Darox, it's redemption from now on.
God, they were absolutely incredible. I mean, we saw the fall of Sea Engineer, unfortunately. He did so well to get this far. And as you said, you know, these people have been, everyone that's competing has been training for the last month. And it is incredible to start with 2,000 players and manage to even just make it to the 1v1s, never mind get this far.
I think the biggest
impressive.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason why CNG potentially lost that fight was just the simple gear difference, like the difference between Arims and Ancestral. Ancestral having that, percentage damage increase and a slightly higher mage accuracy really made the difference there, catching those essential freezes. But, oh well, he did very well, like you said, and he got really far. Next up, we have Ziz versus One Beast currently. And it looks like Ziz is actually Odor Block, apparently, which is pretty cool. He's made it really far. He's fighting a ranged tank, actually, and Odor Block is going to do really well, I'm sure, right now. A lot of fans of his in the Twitch chat as well. And he's got that four-way momentum switch to be able to catch his opponent, DD underneath, and then catch his opponent off prayer as best as possible. Of course, he's got the max gear setup. He's got the Mage's Book as well, which gives a plus 15 mage accuracy, rather than keeping the DFS on the whole time, which gives negative bonuses to magic. He's experienced enough to be able to do those switches perfectly. 41, that was actually a chance, as Odor Block would be screaming right now for his headset, almost like a 55 or something to kill him. But he's up quite a bit of food at the moment. The question is, can he beat the ranged tank? If anyone can, it's probably going to be Odor Block, one of the most prolific members. He's representing Frontline right now as well, and he's done. Yes, once again, anyone that's made it this far, it should be extremely proud of themselves, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Both players here definitely done a really good job. We can see it's the range tank again with his nice Infernal Cape. And I do get to see a piece of Justice here at least. It's the face guard, it's not the full set, but I'll take it. But I think if you were in this situation, Pure Spam, where would you rather be? Would you rather be the range tank against Oda, or would you rather be a hybrid against him?
I'd rather not be against Oda if I had any decision-making in that. I'd probably flop to the floor like a fish, to be honest. But I'll tell you what's really interesting as well. This range tank has opted for a Granite Ring switch for the defense bonuses. Not only that, but he also has 3 recoils that he's managed to make through this far, which, if Oda Block does intend to win this fight, and it looks like he's going to win it, then he will have a huge advantage with those 3 recoils, which
he is intending
through
to
every
win the
single
fight,
round.
Ian, just whether or not he does, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. He's doing so all right.
He is. I mean, he's fantastic PK at the end of the day, and you can see that with the switches.
I wonder if he's going to take through the leg switch as well, the full armor deal for that extra mage defense. I mean, he's competent enough of a switcher to be able to do that as well. The Justice Helm is probably a straight upgrade. The only downside to the Justice Helm, which range tanks probably wouldn't be that keen on having, is it has very low mage defense bonus. And obviously, the one thing you want to do as a range tank is not be frozen in place, because all you can do in that position is bolt rag. You can just bolt and bolt and bolt as best you can, but Oda Block realizes he's just going to keep this guy frozen as best as possible, and if he's able to do that, he's got a distinct advantage. Right now, 6 food, even with the recoil damage constantly dwindling down his hit points, he's still, shown his prowess and managed to win this one, potentially quite extravagantly. He has 65% spec as well. His opponent has 45% spec. It looks like at the moment that the one guy, the tank, is actually praying melee quite a lot. Hits a 20 spec on Oda Block. Oda Block doing great to tank, but it could go either way, to be honest. He doesn't catch the next freeze. A 42 ball on the right prayer there. That is awful for him. Just like that, it's turned around and they're now even in food.
If Vengeance was up at that moment, that would have been even more damaging to Oda in that position.
Yeah.
A hit like that to have... well, actually, sorry, I think it was him that got hit. Never mind. I don't know why I'm saying that.
He needs to keep the pressure up, man, because if the longer he waits, like I said before, for these next hits to go in, and the longer time it takes... Oh, a 56 on Oda off prayer! He's going to be kicking himself after that one. He's now down, like, 50 HP or something. It might be all over for him if he can't catch that freeze. That freeze is essential. He's caught it. Question is, can he mitigate his damage enough? Another Vengeance coming in. He's got to hit low here, man.
He really
if he
does
hits too high...
And otherwise, he's just going to kill himself with the damage, surely.
Exactly. Oh, only a 3. That's perfect for him. So now he has a 45% spec. Oh, a 48 off prayer. It's the 34 through prayer. No way. There it is. Oh my god, that's so lucky. No way.
Chance for Oda during that moment then, but that stack, the 2 damage hits, you just... I wonder if the range tank was just basically assumed that they'd won, and then all of a sudden the Oda just pulls it out of the bag and just shows that it's not over until it is literally over.
Yeah. Now we have it once again. Fools is Iron Mammal, who was a beast earlier. We saw him get some crazy combos. And Swagbag Steve is one of GG's members who takes the win. Both huge clans there being represented by extraordinary PKs as well. We have Yajan versus Pog, which I'm sure is a Twitch chat favorite. And once again, the recoils for Yajan, which probably makes a huge difference. Now, obviously, Oda Block just defeated his opponent with recoils, so now we can take those through, and the recoil does a little bit of damage every single time you get hit. So it's quite a big benefit as well to having.
And just like that, the round is over again already.
It's so fast. We are smashing through these, and that was the top 16, which means anyone that was in there gets 1 year of Old School RuneScape membership. So I mean, regardless of whether you won or lost, it's a win, right? It's a win. And in a moment we'll get to see the top 8, which I mean the standard is going to be. The top 8 is going to be incredibly high level here, and this is when we start to get into the slightly more exciting prizes from Intel and Razer, and we start to get into the monetary prizes as well. I mean, I'm very excited. We've got some big names competing, haven't we?
Well, yeah, we just saw one of that fight just a moment ago, and if that fight is anything coming up in the rest of this tournament, I don't even know how we're going to be able to cast it, because we might just be screaming the entire time with those numbers of the damage numbers that pop up.
I think the best part of this tournament is just like everyone being in maximum gear and max DPS means that these fights are over in absolute, matter of less than a couple of minutes. Whereas before we saw a lot of just 0-0-0s being exchanged. But when these players have that huge accuracy of the mage, especially catching those freezes, it's just massive for them. So I see Swagbag Steve again here, one of GG's most notorious members, going up against Lugs, both players being Tribroids. And Lugs has quite a lot of switches right now as well. He's got the VLS, he's got the tank body too. Both players actually utilising that tank body as best they can. And both players being in full Armadil as well. The Eternal Boots, the lot. These guys have been stacked up by their teams as being some of the best players. They can represent them. And VLS is being exchanged right now. Swagbag using both his other 43 off prayer being returned though. Can he catch the freeze? He can. He walks into the VLS though. That could have been a chance too on 60 HP. He has to now compose himself, walk underneath, and reassess which direction he wants to take this fight in.
Yeah, we got just one point to note out for those that are watching at home. We are now going to be watching these fights one at a time, so you'll see in the corners that there's nothing going on that is intentional. We get to watch these as we are going into the, we're in the quarterfinals. A huge 50 VLS going in favour of Lugs there against Swag. And that's definitely what was needed in order to balance this fight out. We can see he's going in for the Blood Barrage, a really high hit of 33. That's the spell we mentioned earlier that does heal you a portion of the damage that gets dealt. So really useful for these kind of fights where your supplies are limited and every piece of extra healing does really count. So one thing I just want to touch on as well, Pure Spam, you can see it now that the flower's going underneath. What is that about? If you can let the viewers at home know. Why are they planting flowers?
So the players have mithril seeds, which if you plant one, it moves your character, I believe it's east or west by 1 square. And so by doing so, if someone's dealing underneath you, you can quickly catch a freeze, move away, and it's pretty helpful as well. We see a Star Barge coming in from Lugs as well. Quite interesting, the biggest difference right here is Lugs has that imbued heart, which gives him a huge amount of mage levels after he uses Bruise. Although saying that, it's still very neck and neck, and Swagbag catching that freeze was imperative for him. He has 45% spec right now, which gives him 55%. That's 2 VLS specs extra compared to Lugs, and he's stepping right next to him here. 13 off prayer. That could have been huge for him, man. And now Lugs gets a chance to just, catch that freeze, step underneath. Although Swagbag fighting back, getting that freeze instantly as well. This guy is notorious in LMS. Everyone's fought him before. He plays LMS all the time, so he's had a lot of experience in these 1v1 situations. And right now, Swagbag leading by, a couple sharks, a Karamwam, using the Blood Barrages, like you said before, with the Zuriel Staff as well, it gives you 50% extra healing capabilities, so it makes a big difference. So I think I just saw a VLS spec coming in there from Swagbag, and I believe he's going to close this one up quite quickly here. He's on 99 hit points with an extra 100 and something 108 HP or something, 98 HP in his inventory, versus Lugs 67. So unless right now Yugs, he still has 2 specs. There's one coming in, not hitting very much though. He's got 1 spec in a second, but I believe that Swag is probably going to take this one. Although a 38 ball coming in again, he's got to do a lot of damage. He's got to really get that momentum back in his direction. He should have spec any second now, but Swagbag has that VLS spec as well. With only 54 HP left, it's going to be hard. But those Blood Barrages really helping him.
Yeah, Lugs is managing to put up a fight at least. He's just dealt 49 damage in the space of 3 attacks and pretty much evened it out once again. There is one food in favour for Swag here, so he's going to be, it's like a 60 advantage in terms of HP after his 8. But things like that Staff Bash from Swagbag Steve aren't going to be helping him keep this fight going forward. But he does get a barrage onto there, puts Lugs down to just 17 HP. Lugs does manage to get a freeze onto Swagbag over here though. Gets a Staff Bash of his own. They're really hitting each other's heads with those probably not the best thing, but now both players are completely out of food. Lugs with just 17 HP, Swag down to 80, and now we're going to see Swag trying to catch that barrage. He does catch it, but Lugs manages to get a redemption in there. Only one piece of prayer restoration left. He gets his second redemption, and that's it. He's now out of prayer, down to 23 HP. He's got to try and take Swag out now, else it's just going to be over for him. But he puts him down to again, now down to 29 HP from Swag. Was that the staff bash that hit?
It was a staff bash actually. 29 HP through his prayer as well. I think it was something like that. Oh,
Wow.
an 8 there, catching the freeze for Swag Bag. He's now got 22 hit points. Can this guy get the last redemption prayer? He has no more prayer afterwards to use though, so Swag Bag has a slight advantage here. But can he even hit the damage?
It could proc redemption for him.
It could, yeah, absolutely. And now, really, these fakies now are so imperative as well with the armor switches. There it is. Lugs gets that off, but he has no overheads now. He's got no prayer to restore him back up. He's on 21 HP with nothing left. Swagbag still has his overheads as well, which is a huge advantage. Obviously, negates damage by 40%, but catches the final freeze. Swagbag takes it, and he gets that imbued heart and the mithril seas as well, which is huge for him. So GG now have a member in the top 8 as well.
That was incredible. What a fight. What a fight. And it just shows, I mean, I personally, anytime I've ever tried to PvP, if I see myself losing that much health early on, I just go, well, I guess that's me dead. But they hold on and they pull it back and they manage to compete, and it's amazing. But we're on to the next one. So let's take a look at the next fight.
Okay, here we go. Looks like we're going to have Yajan against Terry Tank. I just love that name, Terry Tank. It just rolls off the tongue nicely.
Oh, it is Shawnee. I thought it might be. So Shawnee's been smashing this tournament. Got himself an Infernal Cave. Was one of the first people to get it, actually. He's got the Bagasian boots as the range tank. He's sliding all over the place like a beautiful ice rink, and just showing off his majestic moves all over the place. He also done Song of the Elves too to get that spectral shield on his head, which has huge mage defense. And the guy just can't catch a freeze on him. Look at him sliding. What an absolute beast right now. And right now, all the 45, dude.
It's just been a non-stop barrage of damage. Terry Tank? Why did he call himself Terry Tank? I guess it's because he's rolling over his opponents rather than being on the defense here. Movement in old school RuneScape is actually really huge, because the precision that you require in terms of playing this game at the level that these players are at the moment is insane. When you're switching gear and going from gear to your spell book to click on spell, so then go into your prayer, all within the space of milliseconds at times. If your opponent is running around like a headless chicken, you also then got to factor in that you have to click on them afterwards if you want to attack them or to cast a spell on them. So it can really throw someone off guard. If you're not used to playing against someone like this, it's a completely different experience than going into, say, for example, Edgeville, isn't it?
Dude, it's so annoying. Like, you've got this guy just floating all over the place. You're trying to, like, shaking yourself probably because you made it so far to the tournament. There's a bunch of money on the line. Your whole team's in TeamSpeak, like, praying for you. And you can't even click your opponent because they're just all over the place. But saying that, Yajan does manage to get a few VLS specs in there to try and bring back the fight a bit. Right now, Terry Tank has no recoils, whereas Yajan does have those recoils. If Terry Tank, the machine that he is, manages to get these recoils, it's a huge advantage for him. Now, obviously, he's got the imbued heart as well, which gives him that extra mage defense, which is what's making it so hard.
And I think he popped that as well just
freezes
after he finished his bruise. Yeah. So he finished his bruise, popped it up, and then obviously you can see the extra accuracy, obviously helping out here, catching a freeze onto Terry Tank.
Yeah, and Yajan actually has like some really good mage bonuses as well. He's got the Seer's Ring imbued switch, the Mage's Book switch, but half the time he just can't catch those freezes, which is just, so important for these hybrids, because it makes sure that the tank is still in place. They can just use one attack style, like I said before. Although saying that, with this gear that Terry Tank has, with the Twisted Buckler switch as well, he's got such insane range bonuses. Full Armor Deal, the ACB too, because they've been obviously camping out Saradomin. Maybe that's the ACB that I got on the first few days when I was rushing God Wars Dungeon as well. Who knows?
You managed to get quite a few of those, right, during your time?
I got 2. I got very lucky. Of course, it was 1 in 128 for the DMM, which was awesome. And Terry Tank right now, again, he's up quite a bit of food. Although saying that, it's not over till it's over. That was a 0 VLS spec, and Terry Tank has 1 VLS spec left. Yajan has 1 more as well, about to come up. So if he can catch this freeze and get back to this fight, if he hits a 60, it can turn around so quickly. I think the best thing is the recoil right now. The recoils are really keeping this fight and making it a bit more even. Catching that freeze was really powerful too in that 29, although Terry Tank pops another Vengeance, which is dwindling down all of Yajan's efforts to try and take control of the fight again.
managing to only hit a 7, so pretty decent to obviously counter that vengeance as it came straight out. And it must be so frustrating for Yajan in this situation, because every time he wants to go into his mage, with Terry just not swapping styles and just constantly hitting with those bolts, he has insane range offense bonus with the Armadil, with the Pegasians, and with the Armadil crossbow. So it's so risky to be doing that, and that's just really goes to show the power of the tank setup, is that, yes, okay, it's very defensive, it's also very offensive. There's very little risk involved with it. So it's kind of like, it's so hard. You really have to be on your game to be able to kind of like overpower someone that's as geared as Terry Tank now when you are bringing in that Tribrid setup. But I have to say, Yajan is doing a really good job. 2 really nice damage hits out, which is just basically almost evened out supplies. Just 2 sharks in it. That spec, though, going into him is not good for him. Being in the robes does take extra damage, but does follow up with a nice 24. So now both players completely out of food. It's 33 HP for Yajan, 64 for Terry Tank.
It's so close, but Terry Tank wins it, drops the good fight, very respectful. RCPK. Oh, I believe they're actually both in the same team. There might have been a Blazers versus Blazers fight. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I recognize the names. Yeah, just showing there. I mean, we were hoping to see some Tribrids really take the cake there, but to be fair to Shawnee, he is a very prolific name as well. He's been PKing and PvPing for many years now. And to get the gear that he had, obviously the Inferno, doing the Infernal on a server, which is only around for a little bit, as well as, you know, not having the best in slot gear to do so. He probably didn't have a Twisted Bow either in a short space of time to be able to get it. That no blowpipes as well. There's no Zora on Deadman modes. He had to use a magic short bow to kill the healers on Zuck as well. So he's worked hard. Song of the Elves 2, which requires a crazy amount of quest points, and just in general, you got a month to do that into to get that shield. Then you got to do the Gauntlet as well to actually get the Crystal Armor Seed to make the helmet. He had the Pegasians too. Yeah, he was worked hard to get that set up. Now we see once again the Elysian behemoth that is Zima Osrs.
So it has managed to carry them through into the quarterfinals here, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens next, whether this is going to be completely one-sided or if Tartar Sleepy can actually show how powerful the full Tribrid setup can be.
Well, if anyone's going to do it, mate, I've just seen that Tartar Sleepy has an arcane spirit shield, which gives, of course, plus 25 magic accuracy. It's the best shield in the game to use for magic. So catching those freezes and those big 25s is not going to be hard for him. And this guy is just, once again, moving around and doing absolute work to Zima. Now, if he gets the Elysian too, I think that's going to be all she wrote. Tartar Sleepy, if he gets the Arcane and the Elysian switch, he's going to have such a huge advantage to get into that 1 versus 1. But, I mean, look at the food difference right now. Zima Osrs has lost half of his food because of those massive barrages and those big VLS specs off the bat. Zima Osrs is actually switching to the Kodai as well to be able to get that magic defense to make it a bit harder for his opponent to catch the freeze, but the Arcane makes it so much easier for him.
I just want to point out, why would you go to the efforts of having a Spectral, an Imbued Heart, even like a Dragonfire Ward, and then a Mage Arena 1 cape? What is with that?
Oh yeah, he must have forgotten to take it out from the multi-stage, or what's he doing? It's like 5 major winners extra he could have, and the 2% increased damage as well. I'm not sure about that one, but hey man, maybe the major Uni Cape one is the meta that we're going to see.
Yeah, maybe he's just styling it out with the OG Zamorak Cape, like fair play. But I mean, I would take every ounce, even gram of advantage that I could get in these kind of fights. Now, you can see, even though Zima does have the Elysian, it doesn't seem to be working out very well for him, because Tartar Sleepy has put him down to just 1 Shark, 2 Karambrands, and 3 doses of Brew. And it's just so one-sided at the moment. Why do you think this is? Do you think it's just a case of what I've been noticing is that Tartar Sleepy is just not stopping in terms of those switches, always trying to make sure that he utilizes his styles properly? And it seems because Zima doesn't have any way to kind of counteract that. He's got 1 gear set up. It's either protect against magic or go into the defensive set. And when you're going up against someone with the Arcane, I don't think he's switched out of that Armadil for the longest time now.
Well, here's the thing with the Arcane as well, having the best mage accuracy can. Like, if you catch that freeze, the range tank is kind of a little bit more useless. You can't slide around the arena like we saw Shawnee doing a minute ago. Mm-hmm. And this guy, Tartar Sleepy, being given this gear, being given the Arcane, it shows that he really does know what he's doing. And his clan has trusted him with such a unique and such a rare to get item. And so if he catches those freezes, there's not much Zima can do. Zima's out of food right now. He's on 69 HP. Tartar Sleepy has a huge advantage. And like I said before, he's going to get he's going to get that Armadillo as well, the legs if he wants them for the major defense bonus, but he's also going to get that Elysian, which is going to be massive because he can switch rather than using the DFS, of course. He can change it with the Elysian instead. I mean, it's not over just yet. Zemo Stress could get another VLS spec, could get really lucky, but I think at this point, when Tartar Sleepy is up this much HP, he's going to be extremely careful at camping that prey melee until his opponent's frozen, so we can't get any of those cheeky VLS 60s off him. And right now, you know, just the outplays of the gear switch is making sure he's got tank on every single time for those range bolts to mitigate damage as best as possible. This must be a huge win for potentially Tartar, who I believe it probably would be Tartar. They've got the name Tartar Sleeping, unless he's trying to get through. Buju, yeah, I think that is a Tartar member, I believe, or a frontline member potentially, actually. Yeah, congratulations to him. He's got the Elysian and the Arcade
upgrade now.
That is
like they've just gone
PKO.
to the mall. It's just like a dream. It's like just been closed in a shopping mall on his own to just pick whatever he wants throughout the entire evening. But this time it's RuneScape in a tournament, and it's the best gear available in the game.
I like how your brain works with this one. The imagination goes wild. It's beautiful.
Don't tell me you've never dreamed of it before. But I mean, everyone.
I'm not going to lie. I've had some RuneScape dreams, but we're on to the final quarterfinal. So let's take a look at that.
I believe this should be the fight with Odablock, and it's against Lima. So let's see who ends up taking the victory here. It looks like Oda did opt to go for the Justicia upgrade from his previous fight, so a nice little bit of extra defense bonuses there for him. Let's see if it ends up helping out. Both players do have the... in fact, actually, yeah, no, they are in the hybrid setup. It's difficult to see when they were frozen, but they do both have tribrid setups, sorry. So pretty level playing field in terms of the styles coming out. One of them has dropped their Imbued Heart on the floor, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, that first freeze there... Oh my god, a 61 on Lima! Odablock has just taken it back again, and he's doing so well right now to do so. He's dropped his high, he's used it already, he doesn't need any more, but that's brought him right back into the game. I was going to say, having that just a sheer helm actually was really a bad decision because, you know, the negative mage defense that it's got meant catching that freeze is you know, so imperative in these fights, like we said before, but Ziz catching off prayer on robes, a 31 bolt, a VLS spec 0, unfortunately for him. Now, Ziz Odablock does have 0 spec remaining, whereas Lima has 35, so he's going to get 1 spec in a second, potentially. He's controlling the fight, getting that DD going again, and it looks like actually Odablock has not opted to take those recall rings from the last fight, which I find really surprising because it gives such a huge advantage from being able to, you know, dwindle down your opponent's HP as they're constantly nipping away at yours. But right now, Lima being frozen by Odablock, by Ziz, sorry, and, you know, just being able to control the fight, step underneath, fake out his opponent, who's currently double-clicking his prayers, got that off prayer, 30, another hit, off prayer, 0, unfortunately for him. He's going to try and catch this freeze, so important, 21 through the prayer. Yeah, that's massive, man. Now look at the food difference at the moment. I mean, obviously we've seen people come back from being down a load of HP, but right now, Ziz really is leading this fight, and he has quite a lot of supplies remaining too, so really it's going to take quite a miracle.
It will. We got to see the power of Ziz in the previous fight against a ranged tank, but it really does go to show that technical skill difference when it comes to an even fight in terms of the attack styles. And with both of them going into tribrid, we just see damage after damage. Nice 48 going in there. Could have potentially taken his opponent out right there and then, but I don't think it's going to be much longer. It's just one shark left in favor of Lima, and I think Ziz Odablock is going to be able to take this down in the next couple of hits. It's just a case of one more VLS whack, one decent freeze. He's even going to use the last food. He just didn't even bother eating it.
He had 2 food left. I think he was panicking because, you know, when you're against a dominant species such as Odablock, I completely understand, man. Like, what are you going to do? You're shaking in your boots. But Odablock's showing once again now in the top 4 now. I think, is that the top 4 now that he's made it through to? He's gone so far, and I believe he is a fan favourite.
Yeah,
straight into the semi-finals already.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a moment to pause and just talk predictions. Who do you think has, stands a chance at winning these big items?
I mean, based off technical ability, from what I've seen so far, and just like I said for the 1v1 tournament, I'm rooting for Oda in terms of a victory. However, I do feel like the gear difference when it comes up against Tartar Sleepy with the Elysian and Spectral Shield as well now, like both of them combined, could be just too much because they are both very skilled players. But I'm going to be voting for Oda here.
So I think it's we're starting with Shawnee versus Swagbag Steve, I believe. So, I mean, between those two, who do you think is going to be standing out there?
For me, Shawnee, I mean, we've seen his moves, man. He's prancing around like there's no tomorrow, you know, having a great old time, dodging every freeze possible. Yeah, that's it, exactly. So, I mean, both these guys are actually good friends as well. They know each other. Shawnee representing Blazers, of course, and we have the other guy representing GG. They've had an alliance for the final hour. They work together to be able to get into this final 1v1. I think, you know, obviously now they're fighting for their teams, but either way, they would be very proud they got this far. I hope personally, as much as I love Shawnee and I want to see him go through, I hope that we see the hybrid beat the tank. But honestly, if anyone's gonna go all the way with a range tank setup, the only one that's left right now, you know, it's going to be Shawnee. He's great.
It should be good. And then we are... Sorry, go ahead, Isaac.
Sorry, I was just going to say I agree completely, just because I'm not a huge fan of the range tank meta. I understand why players use it, because it is very low risk and it has a huge potential, but the fights that come out of those tribrid are just way too entertaining to pass up on. So I do hope that we end up seeing all tribrids coming up into the final. Sorry.
Well, I believe we are ready to go straight into our first fight for the semi-finals, so let's take a look.
Here we are, Terry Tank, the majestic ballerina dancer, floating around the stadium right now for our viewing pleasure. Going in for the VLS spec off the bat, but on Pro Melee, and being caught actually, surprisingly. He can't use his moves that he's showing off this entire tournament. 42 VLS on him as well after being frozen in place, but it was a vengeance at the very least for Shawnee, so he's got a big advantage there. Now, Swagbag Steve is able to kind of dominate the fight, getting a VLS spec off prayer, but only an 11, which is kind of unlucky RNG-wise. Regardless, you know, utilizing those blood barrages like we said before, trying to heal his HP up a little bit more as well. Now, Terry Tank taking so much... Oh my god, a 47 VLS too! He is on the back burner right now. He needs to get back into this fight. He's got 85% specs, so he's got a chance. Swagbag Steve, he's got his last VLS spec right there as well, so he's got no more KO potential potentially, but catching that freeze, that 28 was huge for him. A 26 blood barrage as well. The momentum, man. Terry Tank is just a Shug bruise like there's no tomorrow, and in doing so, you know, he's losing his mage defense that he's relying on to not be caught and not to be hit by those massive mage attacks. But hey, it's not over for him. A 27 off prayer there as well for Terry Tank, so he can get back into the fight. He's down so much food though, so it's going to take a lot for him to come back.
It really is. Pure Swam is going to have to get something a little bit more than just his movement in his favour, but it looks just like Swagbag Steve just has such good luck with catching those freezes against his opponent. And obviously he is wearing essentially max mage without the spectral, obviously, but pretty much as good as it can get, so you would expect them to be catching even on some pretty good defensive. So working out really well in his favour, because you can just see time after time it's just hit after hit. The barrage comes in with freezes opponent, straight followed up by a blood barrage, heals him back up again. He's only had to use 3 pieces of food this entire fight so far, whereas you can now see Terry Tank is literally down to, that's it, no food. He is out. 90 HP is all he has got left to try and bring him back into this fight, and it's going to take an absolute miracle. Does have 1 spec left on that VLS and does have the potential of vengeance, but I think Swagbag Steve can pretty much just eat through anything that Terry Tank has to be able to throw at him at the moment.
I will say one thing though, Terry Tank, of course, Shawnee representing Blazers on his chest. He's done absolutely fantastic to get through here, and I'm sure in the team speak they're all very proud of him for getting thus far. You know, like I said before, he got that Infernal Cape, he got the Song of the Elves on as well. He's been enjoying the tournament the whole way through. I think everyone, obviously, no one's really truly playing for the prize money. It's more for bragging rights and for the enjoyment of Deadman mode as a game mode. So props to Shawnee for making it thus far. Although saying that, I mean, these redemption prayers, he really is trying to stay on as last as possible. But yeah, respect from Blazers, respect from GG. Those guys are in alliance, like we said before. So I'm guessing they're both very, very proud to be able to go against each other, and at least, you know, someone from the same alliance took the other out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the end of Terry Tank, unfortunately, the tank just, you know, didn't last any further. But Swagbag Steve, you know, incredible performance, and as semi-finalists, you know, there are prizes for that, so they will come away with a nice little selection of goodies from, you know, Razer and Intel and all of this good stuff, and a bit of money. So I mean, as you said, there's so much pride when people can manage to get this far, because it is obviously getting through that first initial stage. There's a lot of RNG, there's a lot of luck in that alone, and then managing to hold the fort until then is impressive. But I believe we're about to go into the Oda versus Tartar Sleepy fight, so this should be really interesting.
Okay,
let's take a look.
I've just had confirmation actually from Barnes, the leader of Tartar, saying that Tartar Sleepy is a council in the clan, And he's actually killed Odablock previously and others for Max. He's the most hated man this tournament for sure. They're known as 45-45-18. And now he has the Elysian and he has the Arcane Switch. So, I mean, if Odablock takes this guy, he obviously wants to. He wants to come back. He wants to get his revenge so clearly. But the question is, can he do it against such a huge setup? Oh, the 56 off prayer. That's massive. I mean, he needs to catch that freeze, man. He needs to get back to this fight. It's the gear disadvantage he's got right now, against the full armor duel and the Elysian and such. It's going to be so hard for him. A 21 VLS as well. Tala Sleepy now actually is out of all of his VLS specs, but Odablock still has 3 remaining, potentially 4 by the end of the fight. So I guess the most important thing right now for Oda to do is try and set himself up for that KO potential, which obviously as a risk fighter, being able to demolish people doing billions versus their 100 mil because he's so confident. If he's able to get that stack, it's going to be here. He needs to do it now. But saying that, against some guy with an Elysian Spirit Shield that's obviously very competent as well and has made it thus far and demolish everyone else in the tournament, it's going to be a miracle that I'm sure a lot of the fans would want. But right now, Odablock or Ziz is down half HP.
The round before, we have seen Odablock come back with some insane damage coming out. However, I do think his opponent here is a little bit more experienced, and you can really just see how much of a difference this is being made now with the food supplies that have gone. However, it does get a nice VLS spec, so it can really just turn at any moment. Unfortunate that it seems like every time that Oda has managed to catch a freeze, it's when his opponent has been in melee range of him, so doesn't actually get him any advantage and also gets frozen as well. And there's another 60 VLS spec going into him. There's like over 110 damage off 2 specs alone during this fight. And those are the real deal breakers. Not so much the gear, obviously it's a big deal, but those specs, that's basically all of your food almost gone just from that alone.
I mean, he's with all those VLSs that he's already got a big disadvantage gear-wise, not having that Elysian and that Arcane with the massive bonuses that gives. I mean, obviously it's almost double bonus for the Arcane versus the Mage's Book, plus you get defense bonuses, and the Elysian as well is much better than DFS. So, I mean, to get this far, though, in the top 4, I know he's going to use the excuse, I was under-geared, it wasn't a fair fight, rematch me anytime, any place, we'll do this on 07 after this tournament's over.
No one would ever do that in old school.
But
what do you mean?
He should be really proud that he's got this far as well, obviously representing Frontline as well, I believe, and Tartar being represented by Sleepy as well. So, but both clans had a lot of drama, a lot of beef this time round. So for these guys to be in the semi-finals together is massive for both of them, and probably a really good opportunity to be able to change there to represent their clans as well. But right now, Ziz, not much he can do. He's down to 7 HP and a dream, but he's lost
7 HP and a dream, and he gets barraged to death,
not possible,
and is out of it there. No, it's just not. So much supplies left in favor of Tartar Sleepy there. It was just a downhill struggle, an uphill struggle, should I say, for Oda from the get-go, really. So unfortunate, but he was up against a very formidable opponent as well, very skilled, and has shown that throughout the entirety of this tournament leading up to where we were. So should be very proud of getting as far as he has done so.
It was really, what a match. I can't even imagine what is happening on Twitch right now in terms of Oda right now. I don't even want to think about it. The outcry must be.
I'm sure we'll see some clips later on.
It's gonna make good content at least. It's gonna be good. Which means, I mean, we are blazing through this. This is absolutely insane. I mean, that's we're going to be going on to the finals very soon. It's going to be incredible. But let's have a chat. Obviously, it's going to be, we've got Swagbag Steve and Tartar Sleepy, I believe, going into the final. So, what are you expecting?
Well, I
won't make you put any money on it, but
I mean, if I had to put money on it, I'd probably say the Elysian Beast with the Arcane as well just outgears everyone by a long shot. Although saying that, the guy Swagbag Steve, who's representing GG from the Solo Alliance, being just a group of solo members that are formed together to make this this massive team now that's super official and plays every Deadman mode is quite fantastic. And his team must be so proud of him as well, just to make it this far into the finals. I'd say though, I'd have to go with the behemoth that has the Arcane and the Ellie, of course.
I'd be stupid if I were to say anything else, to be honest.
Someone's got to support the underdog.
I would love to, but
you
I mean, it's one of those things where it really does make that much of a difference. The damage reduction from the Elysian alone, and then included with the mage accuracy. And like, mage is so key in these fights. Catching those freezes is everything. When you've got 3 attack styles, you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of all 3 of them every single time. And every time that you fail a barrage and it splashes is a point where you are exposed. You're in less defensive gear. Your opponent, all they have to do is just put on a crossbow. Even in full tank gear, they can still have pretty good bonuses to deal damage back to you. If it's a 20, that's 1 shark. So huge risks involved with trying to go for that and set that up. Does pay off very well when it happens. So yeah, I think just the fact of that arcane increasing it is just going to be too much to handle.
Well, it's going to be, regardless, very, very exciting. It's going to be an amazing fight to watch. And of course, we've got some fantastic prizes from Intel and Razer for this. So again, thank you to the sponsors. I think it's time to go straight into the final. So let's take a look.
Let's get it.
Here we are, the Deadman Mode Tournament Finale. Tartar Sleepy versus Swagbag Steve, both representing 2 of the biggest clans in Deadman Mode. They've made it this far, a month-long tournament to get here, to get all the gear they possibly could, fed by their clans, to make it through the fog-intense multi-phase, and now they're battling it out. Tartar Sleepy already giving the VLS 45 smack to Swagbag Steve, which is just
dusting it off on his opponent's Aram's robes, just as ancestral robes, as you do. He saw an opportunity and took it, and it obviously paid off. A nice 45 hitting out straight away. Swagbag, unfortunately, hitting into Armadillo. It's got a bit better defense, but another 37 to follow it up. So 2 good specs of even this fight out quite well for them now.
He gets his Prey Melee on for the 17 VLS from Swagbag. Swagbag gets frozen as well. He's opted for the tank legs as opposed to the Armadillo legs, which give higher mage defense. So Swag's going to find it harder to catch Mr. Sleepy. But if he catches that freeze, that's what's so imperative about these fights. If you can catch that freeze, you can start to dominate and start to step under and try and gain control and momentum. But Swag's finding it so hard versus the double Armadillo. Just splash like 4 times in a row, I think, right there. Lucky for him, though, gets hit 0 VLS from Sleepy, but gets refrozen. He's missed like 6 freezes in a row and a 34 into a 23. I mean, just that momentum right now. He's got to sit there and eat.
Stop.
And he's just, oh my God,
carries on.
38 as well. Like, what can you do about that? There's not much.
Literally, there isn't. As soon as you start getting some momentum as the offender, it's just non-stop, because as your opponent is eating, they're not able to deal damage back, and you're in complete control. It's so hard to switch gear and prayer, yet alone trying to add food into there at the same time, and then trying to trick your opponent. It is just too much to handle, and it has been so one-sided. We're straight the way down to just 2 sharks already on the side of Swagbag. Tartar Sleepy just showing how strong a good set of gear and just good game knowledge as well. Because let's face it, yes, he has got the better gear set, but he's not exactly doing anything wrong here. He is making sure that he uses every opportunity he can. We've seen those specs come out in the perfect moments, and those switches just being on point every single time.
Yeah, absolutely, and like he is in maximum gear possible at the best.
I say that as he staff bashes.
Yeah, as he staff bashes. Yeah, right.
He makes a few mistakes, and the gear's carried him through. So.
But yeah, what can Swag do here? He's got no food. He's down to 50 hit points. I know that GG is going to be screaming in their Discord, yo, congrats, man. You've pulled us through. You put our name on the map from going from a bunch of solo players that were just friends to now being taken seriously as one of the main competitors and main contestants for the DMM final of all the old school RuneScape players and PvPers that take it super seriously. To make it this far is a huge achievement in itself. But yeah, Tartar Sleepy.
Getting to the final of 2,000 people down to 2 out of 2,000 is like, that is definitely something to be proud of and something to go home and just completely shout about. And I'm sure if we ever do hear about future tournaments going forward, GG are definitely going to be a name that have earned a lot of respect after this.
Yeah, and I mean, Tartar Sleepy as well, to beat Odablock, widely known as one of the best PKs in the game. Hashtag Tartar, Kings of DMM. I will mention as well, he takes the win, Tartar Sleepy. World 45 is where Tartar originate from, the main demo mode world, which is still up. You guys can play demo mode World 45 as well, of course. It is still a relatively active server for a lot of the clans, and a lot of those guys obviously do play the seasonal tournaments in between. But if you've enjoyed Deadman mode, feel free to check it out there. It's experience rates are all increased as well, so you can get to the max level and do lots of fun stuff really quickly.
Yeah, there's still some good mechanics in place for brand new starters to that world as well, so you can get a little bit of catch-up mechanic. Now, obviously, that world has been around since the very first Deadman, which was many years ago now, but you might face off against a few behemoths, but it still is good fun. I've jumped in there every now and then on my old character that I played in the original season that happened, and you just run around, mess about a little bit. Maybe you want to practice something that you don't want to do in main game, you can also do that. But yeah, those guys were always shouting on about how much they were getting up to in World 45, so big respect. Happy to see them win.
Absolutely. Well, talking about, obviously the Deadman mode world that is always there in previous Deadman modes. I mean, there's been so many incredible moments from not just this tournament, but previous ones. And whilst I'm just waiting for confirmation of the winner, let's talk about your personal favourite moments from, this tournament and previous ones.
So for the entire tournament, for me, it's just been, from the start, taking part as well, that fresh sense of competition, hopping onto TeamSpeak or Discord of all your friends and catching up in this pandemic, and, late night sessions of PKing or running to bosses, that kind of stuff. That's what really I live for when it comes to DMM. In terms of the final, just to see everyone in absolute Maximus, running around in Elysians and Arcanes and Ancestral. From all the players, on behalf of them, thank you, JX, for being us back DMM, trialing it again. We really, myself included, hope to see it back again soon, because it's such a fun game mode that nothing comes close to it, nothing on 07. So here's to more DMM, hopefully, in the future as well. I hope you guys at home as well have enjoyed it, because the DMM finals is always a really good one to watch.
Yeah, it's not like anything else. I completely agree with you as well. I mean, for me, it's the start of Deadman Mode Seasonals is just unlike anything. I love it. Everyone starts, even playing field, and it's just that rush to try and get those stats early on and start PKing as fast as you can, and I personally love it. What about you, Aiza?
Yeah, I think for me, Deadman has always been about the togetherness of people, because it does bring together so many communities, and a lot of clans that have these rivalries in the main game just put them aside because they know that it's beneficial for them to come together. And I think it's probably actually helped that scene kind of grow a lot and become less sense of negativity towards one another, and maybe even form friendships that have lasted past Deadman. On a smaller scale, I personally love watching the first 2 weeks of Deadman on Twitch. I'm typically there with 5 or 6 different tabs open, many multi-Twitches as well, just so I can catch as many of the streamers and just really watch their journey, because the first few weeks really just kind of set in stone how much of a good or bad experience they're going to have. This tournament, there were a few little upsets that we saw with some content creators killing other content creators and certain clans killing other content creators whilst they were live on stream and such. And whilst it's all a little bit of drama at times, it's all fun and games, and I just think it's always a good time to watch. Tournament-wise, in this one, the finals, it was the Odablock comeback by far that we thought he was going to be out on those 2 damage stacks. I love that.
It's seriously impressive stuff, and I can confirm we do know the winner. Tata Sleepy has been confirmed as the winner, so congratulations. You'll be taking home a nice tasty little prize of the Razer Ultimate bundle, as well as an Intel i9 9900K, which great CPU, would recommend. Again, a massive thank you to the sponsors for getting involved with this, Intel and Razer. It's been absolutely incredible, and we've seen all kinds of final fights in Deadman mode, and we've seen some that are super long, some that are super short, some that are unpredictable, some where it's the same clans competing against each other. I think it was a nice little final today. Nice little final for sure.
Yeah, had a lot of fun, didn't we?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun and incredibly smooth, I would say. Incredibly smooth. Absolutely. Well, just before we wrap up for today, any final takeaways from either of you?
I just want to say thank you to Jagex for obviously putting on the tournament and for bringing me back in as a caster to be alongside you fantastic people. Thank you to the old school community for being as amazing as you are, as always. And I just really, really, really hope that we get to see more PvP content come out, and especially another Deadman mode. I think the inclusion of raids was really good. I would really love to see in the future something happen with Deadman that is just completely out of this world. I want to see something insane where it's a huge risk to take, with whether it be adding in brand new content just for Deadman, maybe closing off certain areas, just a completely different take on it. Give it the attention that it deserves, because it definitely has a huge amount of potential, and I still think even to this day that the full potential of Deadman hasn't been fully unveiled, and I'd love to see it at its fullest.
Yeah, I just want to echo that statement right there. DMM has so much potential still. I'm sure you guys at home love watching it, all the content that the content creators provide us throughout this past month. Thank you to all the clans that reached out to me and spoke to me. I apologize sincerely if I couldn't give you guys enough exposure and all the stuff you gave me, but I literally have a 5 to 6 word document which just has
really
all the bits
5 to 6 words? God, that's so many words.
It was a long tournament, 5 to 6 page document. But yeah, no, I hope for more DMM tournaments. We had the 1v1 tournament a few weeks ago. I hope to see more of that as well. Thank you as always for inviting me back to cast. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm very passionate about demo mode, of course, as well. And as well as that, in a couple of weeks' time, actually, I should give this a quick shout out. Is Eevescape is doing a event on Twitch as well for the RuneScape community, with a lot of content creators doing a battle royale, something similar to my mode. People have to gear up and then fight each other for a final. So there'll be some good content on the old school RuneScape section. There's loads of streamers that are live right now on the old school RuneScape section too. They're probably playing demo mode. Go give your condolences to Odablock as well, of course, who's live, and I'm sure others are as well. And yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in so much, for all the support as always. Love you all.
And to add to that, obviously, content creators on YouTube as well. There's a lot of content creators involved in this, and it's again, I'm a lover of Deadman mode. I'm much better on this side than I am on the competing side for sure.
I feel you on that one.
As Ian said, you know, you'd flail like a fish. That is pretty much me in Deadman mode when competing. So I completely agree with that. But it is my favourite thing to watch. It's my favourite aspect of old school RuneScape, and for Jagex to be able to put on this tournament, you know, pretty last minute with COVID-19 going on, I think is incredible. And of course, with them donating £25,000 to 3 mental health charity partners, you know, it's a massive thumbs up from me. So shout out to those charity partners as well. We've got CPSL Mind, Prince's Trust, and You Are Rad. But it's been absolutely incredible, and yeah, personally amazing. And just before we end, you did mention if you could add one thing to a Deadman mode tournament, what would it be? We'll start with Ian. Put you on the spot. One thing
in Deadman mode, just to see them being ran more consistently. I'd say, okay, my opinion for Deadman mode, what I think should happen, it should be an accelerated server, which just, you know, anyone can experience the spirit the demo is intended to be, which is to get out there, go PK and kill some people in game, of course, and get yourself some bank keys, see what you get from them. It should take 1 to 2 hours to like cap out and to, you know, kill a bunch of monsters. Everything should be accelerated. Make it like a massive game of Last Man Standing or a massive wilderness game. You log in every day with your friends for 1 to 2 hours, and you can go PK in basic gear. That's what I want to see them overcome. I think, you know, the hardcoreness of the tournament should stay as it is, but for the seasonal specifically, it should be more inclusive for solo players and for everybody, so everyone can enjoy and experience that, you know, adrenaline fueled factor that the demo gives, which is unlike anything else in old school RuneScape.
And just quickly, what about you, Aiza?
Yeah, I want to see an extension to the wilderness. I want the wilderness to go deeper in Deadman, and for the deeper area of the wilderness to be absolutely inundated with resources, whether it be resources that you skill for, roaming bosses, just standard NPCs. That is the place that you want to go to if you want to be able to get everything that you need to be able to progress through. I'd love the whole risk versus reward aspect in old school, and I think that'd be a great way to do it.
Well, fingers crossed for some more PvP content in the future. Once again, a massive thank you to Jagex for getting us involved in this. I am honoured to be a host, and it's been fantastic. Thank you to Intel and Razer for sponsoring the event. Thank you to all of you guys at home for watching. And that wraps it up. Congratulations, of course, to Tartar Sleepy for taking the win there. We will see you, hopefully, again very soon. Thank you for watching the Deadman Mode Final 2020.